Okay, we're ready. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to go sit down? Good morning. This is a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council on Tuesday, July 18th, 2000. The council meets Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at more or less 10 o'clock. We are available on Channel 35, where we will be rebroadcast again this evening if you're a glutton for punishment. And we are also available by council phone. First item, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Burnson, Shakespeare, Galanter, Goldberg, Hernandez, Holden, Miskowski, Pacheco, Padilla, Ridley, Thomas, Warner, Wax, Walters, Ferraro, 10 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. First item.
Approval of the minutes.
Without objection, the minutes are approved.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
And likewise, those are approved.
Before beginning the regular agenda, there are several items request to continue. Item number 1, request to be continued to September 19th.
Any problem with that? That's continued till September 19th.
Item number 16, Housing Department requests continuance to September 19th.
All right, item 16 will be continued.
Item number 20, Housing Department also requests that one be continued to August 1st.
All right, that will be continued till August 1st.
Item number 29, Councilmember Holden's request that be referred back to the IGR committee.
All right, let's refer that one back to IGR.
And item number 38 should be received and filed inasmuch as it has already been acted upon on Friday.
All right, do we need a vote on that, or? All right. 38, receive and file. It's already been acted on. All right, well, it's basically done. Thank you. Okay, next.
Next item, Madam President, you have city confirmation of city officials. Item number 6 is confirmation of George Gibbs to the Library Commission for the term ending June 30th, 2005.
Mr. Gibbs? We have, does anybody want to be heard on this item? Does anyone want to make a motion on this item? Mr. Padilla moves. Ms. Goldberg seconds. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Easiest election you ever won, Mr. Gibbs. You're approved.
Yes,
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We'll be glad to have you. That's approved forthwith on that. Next item.
Item number 6 is confirmation of Jane B. Levant to Cultural Affairs Commission for the term ending June 30th, 2005.
She must be 7. We just did 6. So item number 7. Ms. Levant.
Good morning.
Good morning. Any council members wish to say anything? All right. Mr. Pacheco. Mr. Burnson moves. Mr. Pacheco seconds. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And you too are approved.
I
Thank
wish
you
I
for your
had
service.
fans like this at home.
It doesn't always work this way. Thank you for your service to the city. Next item.
Item number 8 is confirmation of Steve Carmona to the Board of Public Works for the term ending June 30th, 2005.
Mr. Carmona, are you here? Come right up. Council members? Anybody wish to say anything at all? All right. Who's Public Works? Mr. Wax moves. Mr. Savornich seconds. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
A little monotonous. You're also
you.
approved. Thank you for your city, for your service to the city, and welcome aboard. Yes, Ms. Goldberg.
That on these referrals to us, if we could get, they give us a gender breakdown, but it would be nice also if they would transmit to us the council districts of all of the people currently on the commission, so we get a sense of how this broadens or doesn't broaden representation.
Fair enough.
Thank
I will do my best to pass that along, and we do have, I see somebody from the mayor's office taking a note. Okay, next item.
Item number 14 is confirmation of Sandra L. Figueroa Villa to the Commission on Children, Youth, and Their Families for the term ending June 30th, 2004.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Any council members?
I'll move it.
Ms. Goldberg moves. Mr. Hernandez seconds. Open the roll. Close the roll. No. What? No, that's something else. Okay. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
You are approved. Thank you very much. Welcome aboard. Thank you for your service. Next.
Item number 15 is confirmation of Dr. Fernando J. Guerra to the Board of Transportation Commissioners.
This is a reappointment. Oh, so was the last one. Okay, I'd like to move approval on this one. Anybody else? Mr. Fewer will second. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
And there we are. That's approved. Thank you very much. Next item.
Items noticed for public hearing, items 2 through 4 are all street lighting districts. Council should open the public hearing and continue the hearing and ordinance to August 8th.
Okay, we don't have any cards on those, but we will open the hearing on all three of those, 2 through 4, right? And keep the hearing open until August, well, we'll continue it to August 8th. Next item.
Next item, item number 5, is hearing protest and ordinance first consideration relative to improvement and maintenance of the LA Street Lighting Maintenance Assessment District.
And we have no cards on that either. Is this also one we want to keep the hearing open or just move approval? Okay, seeing nobody in the audience who wishes to speak on this, we'll make sure the public hearing is closed. And item, where is it? 5.
Item number 5.
5 is before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That is approved. Next.
Items for which public hearings have been held, items 9 through 13.
Council members, any specials, items 9 through 13?
I think the record should reflect Ms. Chick is in the room.
Oh, okay, Mrs. Chick is here. Okay, any specials, 9 through 13?
Item 12.
I'm sorry, 12?
Item 12.
Okay. Mr. Hernandez calls item 12 special. Anybody else? Open the roll on 9, 10, 11, and 13. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 eyes.
Those are approved. Next. Forthwith on 9.
Items for which public hearings have not been held, items 14 through 43.
All right, we have cards on item 34, so we'll call that special. Is there anybody in the chamber who wants to be heard on any of the rest of those items? Seeing none, the public hearings are closed.
20.
Any? He's not here.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Item 28 and item 38.
38 we received and filed because we've already acted on it.
Oh, we acted on it, so they'll
Yeah.
report back to
Yeah,
us?
so we just received and filed this.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Holden wanted to continue item 28, and what was the other one? Okay, 28 and 36, and we'll hope he shows up in time. Okay, any more specials through item 44? Seeing none, open the roll on the balance, which is 17 through 19, 21 through 27, 30 through 33, 35, and item 37 is a closed session, yes? So we haven't taken that one up yet. 39 through 48. Through 43? Oh, okay. Special, which one? Okay, we're not quite there yet. My mistake. We're stopping at 43. Okay, open the roll on all of those. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 eyes.
All right, those are approved. Next.
On the supplemental agenda, items 44 and 45.
Okay. Those are called special. Mr. Hernandez, yeah.
I'd like item 38 to be reconsidered because I had some definite comments I wanted to make in regards to it going to committee, and I introduced the motion.
Okay. Item 38. 38's are you sure it's a tract map?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was dealing with,
37, I think is
well, my
37's
agenda
a
says
closed session.
Must be 35.
Okay. So,
35, I'm sorry. That was my fault.
All right, so let's reconsider 35 and call it special.
Good job. Thank you.
38 can stay received.
That's right, 38 is received and filed, and item 35, unless there's an objection, is now reconsidered and called special. Okay. Now where are we? Should be
Items
at
for which
46.
public hearings have not been held and on the supplemental agenda, items 46 through 48.
Okay, and is there anybody in the chamber who wants to be heard on items 46 through 48? Seeing none, the public hearings are closed. Council members, any specials? 48, okay. Thank you for reminding me. 46. Anybody want to go for 47? All right, open the roll on 47. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
All right, item 47 is approved. Okay, are we back to the specials now?
Item number 12, called special, by Councilmember Hernandez.
Mr. Hernandez, and could you push the
I don't know if
speaker
there's someone here from General Services.
button? Can you hit the speaker button? Speaker button.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Members of the council, the reason I called item 12 special is there's basically what had been no analysis done by the ORS department, whatever Office of Administration and Research, or the CLA's office. And what is being proposed is an increase in a lease agreement for 5 years of $100,000. It's currently $200,000, so the increase would amount to basically $300,564 a year for 10,500 square feet. Now, when I put that into a calculator, it came out to $28.65 a square foot. And I was wondering what the analysis was for us to be paying those kinds of lease rates and how that compared to other locations. It's just that $28.65 is a tremendous amount of money to be paying out for lease space. And I don't know how that compares to any other facility we have in the city. Yet the report says that that's cost effective. And so I wanted someone to explain that to us. I'm not questioning the building and everything else. I'm just questioning the reasoning as to how we get there. There might be something extraordinary as to why we're paying that kind of a lease space. The report also says that there's currently savings for lease space. Now, I didn't hear that when I was trying to find lease dollars for other buildings, but it says there's currently savings for lease space that they could use, and if not, it might require a 6-month adjustment in 6 months. But so I just had those general questions I wanted to ask, and
Let's see if Ms. Goldberg can answer them, because she's up next, and then we'll decide what to do. Go ahead.
No, I can't answer them. I just do know that happily, rental rates in Hollywood have gone up considerably in the last couple of years. And this is a building in Hollywood that serves the center of the city, literally the dead center of the city, and points west, east, and south of there with 3 major units: internal affairs, crime analysis, and employee recruitment section. So, you know, I didn't calculate it. I'll take my colleague's word for it. I didn't calculate it, but I do know that there have been throughout all of Hollywood increases. These are long-term uses by the police division, and if we're going to change them because of the price, and I have not made an independent analysis, but if we're going to, we may need to do it temporarily anyway to keep this going, because it's in a good location. It's a smart building, meaning it's wired for all the bells and whistles that these various units use. And I don't have anything more pertinent to add to that. I have no idea how it compares or anything else, but I do know that all property in Hollywood that's in good condition, and this building is in A1 condition, have experienced increases in square footage.
No, in rent per square foot.
Rent per square foot.
Right.
You're right. The buildings haven't grown, the price has.
Okay, Mr. Burnson.
I'm very glad that Mr. Hernandez noticed this, because it's very glaring, and I should have seen it also, but unfortunately we don't always look at all the little small print. That price, and I presume that's an annual rate, is a very high figure if you compare it with the most expensive malls in the country. So I guess we have to continue at least on a temporary basis. Is that correct, But how long is this extension going to be for?
It would be a 5-year extension.
Oh, well, I don't think, I would suggest that we, and I'm going to defer to Mrs. Goldberg because it's her district, but I would suggest that we enter into a short term, either month to month, and see if we can't get a better rate.
Is it possible for us just to continue it till tomorrow? Maybe the department could come in and shed some light?
I'll second the motion if it's okay with Mrs. Goldberg.
Just continue it till tomorrow so the department can come explain.
If you need more information, continue it till tomorrow. I'm going to still
Something
support it
is amiss here.
because it's a good building, but I have no other thing to say to
Okay,
that.
Mrs. Chick is up next. Did you want to?
I understand.
All right, we're going to continue this until tomorrow. Next item.
Item number 28, Councilmember Holden.
And Mr. Hernandez, I think you called this special as well. Item 28.
Yeah, I just, again, and I don't know why this morning in my briefing it was like reviewing administrative costs. Here's another example where there's been no analysis of the fiscal cost of contracting out these services versus having city employees do it. The committee recommended that there be a task force put together to review that issue. But again, the agreement is what, 3 years, 5 years that we're being asked to sign. And there's a standing policy that says that review is supposed to happen before a recommendation to contract these services. And I'm trying to find out why that's happening.
Well, item 28 on the agenda says that the committee recommendation is to determine that these can be performed more economically. Oh, I see, by the proposed contractor. All right, so you want you want somebody to tell you.
Right,
Okay.
but the standing policy of the council is that's supposed to happen before it comes to us.
Right.
With this kind of recommendation.
Right.
And unless we change that policy, I was asking the question because I'm not aware of that change.
Well, I think we might want to continue this for one day for exactly the same reason.
Okay.
What's our agenda look like tomorrow? Are we going to have a horrendous agenda? Okay, let's continue item 28 for one day as well. Okay, item 29 was referred to IGR, and we should be up to item 34. No, item 34, there was no public hearing, is that correct? Okay, I have several people who want to be... Can we get a little quiet back here? Where are the people who go around and say shh all the time? Thank you. Did it work? Temporarily. Okay, here we go. Where are we here? Item 34. I have two people who wish to be heard on item 34, Hank Hernandez and Mitzi Grasso. Mr. Hernandez, are you here? Yes, I'm here.
Good morning. Hank Hernandez, General Counsel with the Police Protective League, and Mitzi Grasso, Director. We're here in support of item number 34. We strongly support the immediate study and establishment of the plan that Sheriff Baca has put in place in his department. We feel that any so-called police reform that does not improve oversight by civilian authorities is not reform. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Grasso.
No.
Okay. No, we're done for now. We have another item.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mizikowski, the public hearing is closed. Ms. Mizikowski.
Thank you, Madam President. This motion, I think, is appropriate inasmuch as we all reacted very, very positively to see what was going on in the Sheriff's Department by Sheriff Baca to completely revamp and reform the way review is made of discipline, internal affairs, and that kind of matter. This is one model that, as I say, the sheriff has implemented, and I think it's worthwhile to explore it. We have a panel of more than 150 people now exploring not only as it relates to discipline and internal affairs, but the whole array of civilian review of the police department, civilian commission assignment, and I think that this is appropriate to be sent to the commission to clearly ask their independent panel and working group that really deals with this matter to consider this among all the various issues and frameworks that they're going to be bringing back to us in not more than about 2 or 3 months' time. I think at the end of September we're going to have that report. And I imagine that a number of members of the council are now being called by those folks doing the work on the independent review panels, the different working groups, getting our input. I talked yesterday to members of the league, and they have been being consulted and asked about various recommendations they have. And so my recommendation on this would be to send this to the police commission and ask them to refer it to their independent working group panels to come back with a model as a model. I think it's precipitous of us to say we're going to take one thing out of a whole array of matters that both have been reviewed by the Board of Inquiry and are now being intensively reviewed by an outside civilian group of people, for the most part, who are doing this independent work for the Police Commission, and let the Police Commission, as they receive that unfettered report and independent review, give us their recommendation about this model as well as others. So my motion is to send this on to the Police Commission, asking for their review.
Mr. Fewer.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to rise first. I support, thank you. I support Ms. Mizikowski's recommendation, but I also think it's important for this idea to be publicly discussed by us and to have a very favorable take on the idea be explicit here. The sheriff's proposal is a very refreshing proposal, represents true innovation when it comes to oversight in law enforcement, and I think took a lot of guts on the part of Sheriff Baca because it's a real break from the past. I think it's important for us here, recognizing that we're not going to dispose of this issue in a conclusive way this morning, to recognize that I think there's an emerging consensus that there needs to be a different approach taken to review of internal police issues when it comes to discipline, conduct, and so forth. We have a consensus emerging. We had the Police Protective League speak in favor of this morning. There are civil rights advocates speaking in favor of this idea. The sheriff of the county is speaking in favor of this idea. This is an idea whose moment I think is emerging here. And I suspect that since I know that the independent working group is in fact looking at this issue among an array of things that do interlock, that relate to each other, I suspect that what's going to emerge from that independent working group's recommendations is a completely different look at police oversight from the Civilian Police Commission all the way through to this internal affairs review. And that's going to be a good thing, I think, for the city of Los Angeles. It's going to be a good thing from the standpoint of rank and file police officers, and a good thing from the standpoint of residents in the city who need to regain trust in their police department. So I think Mr. Wax did us, I think all, did something very beneficial by introducing the motion. And I think it's important that many of us go on record stating how positively we view Sheriff Baca's proposal.
Mr. Wax.
Yes, thank you. I have no problem with Ms. Mizikowski's motion to refer it, but I'd like to refer it with a recommendation, or at least a statement of belief on the part of this council that it is a good idea and one that we hope that they would embrace, even though they may tailor it in their own fashion. I think that the concept of having the kind of independent civilian review, which is both believable to the public and fair and just to the officers, is something that we should embrace. And I don't know why we would be afraid to tell them that we like this idea. Obviously, it would have to be tailored to our charter, to our department, to their recommendations. But I just don't think we ought to send it to committee without a statement of intent that we think that this is the road to which the Los Angeles Police Department should take. This department's got to establish credibility, and discipline is one of the critical issues in which it can do that. Now, the fact that the sheriff has come up with something I thought remarkably innovative, because he was able to fashion a reform that had tremendous support both among his deputies and the civil rights community. That is not an easy thing to do on an issue as complex as discipline. And we should do certainly no less. And I feel that for a discipline to be effective, it has to be believable to the public who bring the complaints in the first place, and to the officers themselves who feel it's fair and just, that there's not a double standard, that there be a system in which all are treated fairly, and it's workable. So I would just hope, members of the council, that in sending this to the committee, or to the, call it what they want, they call it an independent outside group. Well, I'm sending it to the police commission group, that we would send it with a favorable recommendation. And I think that that's really important. Otherwise, we're really not going on record on something that we ought to be taking the lead on. And I commend Sheriff Baca. I don't think there should be any pride of authorship here. I'm not afraid to give credit where credit is due. He came up with the proposal. He has really taken the lead on it. He deserves to be commended, and we should do our part to make sure that we act in a similar way in the LAPD. So, Ms. Misakowski, I don't know where you are. Your motion, I assume, is to refer this to the independent...
Right, to the
okay.
independent panel working groups.
Would you have objection to a motion that refers it to them with a statement of intent by the council that we really support this concept and hope that they will...
The only hesitancy I would have, Joel, is that there are any other number of models. This isn't necessarily the only
It doesn't
right one.
have to be the specific that there be 6 of these and 4 of those and all that. That I leave up
But
to them. But
that there be a component of civilian review, outside review.
at least as
overseeing-
meaningful as this. I mean,
okay.
this is pretty strong
Guys,
stuff.
there's 4 more people who want to be heard
Well,
before we resolve
So my
this.
motion would be that in attaching it to Ms. Misakowski, maybe we could just join it, that while it goes to them, that we embrace the concept of this and ask that something at least as effective of this in terms of independent civilian review be a
but
part of ours.
Your time is up. Mrs. Chick.
Yes, I want to also rise in support of the motion. I was one of, I think it looks like, Mr. Wax, quite a few of your colleagues who seconded it, and I think that the way Councilmember Misakowski is recommending that it be changed with a statement that we're looking for substantive change along these lines is a perfect way to go. I also want to praise Sheriff Baca. When I started to learn about these steps that he's taken, my view is here is a law enforcement leader that is both expert and professional in law enforcement, but is also extremely in touch with the real live men and women, children, et cetera, that make up our communities, and that he is actually able to also understand the civilian outside law enforcement community point of view. And I very much feel that we have some progress to make in that area in LAPD. The other piece, the consensus, the idea that personnel, and I think it's both sworn and civilian, because in the LAPD it's sworn and civilian staff who are both impacted, albeit differently, by the discipline system. To have that consensus between the officers, civilian personnel, civil rights groups, and the policymakers. And I want to point out, colleagues, that we lost a very good advisor to our department, our police commission in particular, when some years ago the commission decided not to renew their contract with Merrick Bobb for legal counsel, who is the legal counsel and was then ongoing for the county on these kinds of issues. And I'm pleased with the Board of Inquiry thus far. I think they have brought in that kind of professional legal advice. I know there have been concerns about the representation, and I think that that is something we need to keep an eye on. But I've met with several of the different groups, and they are very seriously looking at substantive change. And Mr. Wax, I think that this is exactly one of the models right here in our own backyard that should be looked at. Thank you.
Mr. Pacheco.
Madam President, colleagues, I wanted to bring up some points because I respectfully disagree with some of the earlier speakers about what we're doing. And I don't mean to rain on anyone's parade here today, but, and I'm going to say something that I've told the Protective League during our debate during charter reform. During charter reform, the Protective League had asked for a shift on the Board of Rights to include 3 civilians and 2 captains. What I found out back then was that there was a study done by a gentleman named Douglas W. Perez, and it's called Common Sense About Police Review, and it identifies a problem which I think we all need to be aware of. And basically the report that he issued and a external review advisory committee from Eugene, Oregon in 1998, which went through a process, also concluded the same thing, which was that civilian review of police officer misconduct results in a lower sanction or lower discipline against the officers, and that there is a hybrid, a monitoring system that may be more effective. And the way it's broken down is in 3 levels. If you have integrity, you have legitimacy, and you have learning. Internal review has the highest level of integrity, has the lowest level of legitimacy in the community, and has the highest level of learning. That's a pure police review. Civilian review has the highest level of integrity, the highest level of legitimacy because of the public involvement, but the lowest level of learning in terms of improving the officer. And a civilian monitoring system, which is sort of what we have with our Inspector General, has the highest level of integrity, the highest level of legitimacy, and the highest level of learning. In terms of cost, a purely internal review has the least amount of cost, has the highest sustained rate of complaints, and has the highest severity of discipline. A civilian review model, a purely civilian review model, has the most cost, has the lowest sustained rate of complaints, and the least severity of discipline. And a civilian monitor has a medium cost, a higher sustained rate of complaints, and a medium severity of discipline. So I believe that before we start misrepresenting or start giving the impression that we're moving towards a purely civilian review commission or anything that involves the civilian review issuing discipline, that we be very careful, because one of the things that it points out is that when you include more civilians, what you do is, in order to offset, I'm getting there, I know I'm getting, is you need to add more due process rights for the police officer accused, which delays the process, which then ends up with less discipline because of the delay. I would simply just say that before we start endorsing any models, that we just review it carefully, and I'm not ready to endorse any model at this point because we haven't done adequate review, and I would simply ask that we send it forward for review without recommendation at this point.
Thank you. Ms. Goldberg.
What were you reading from?
There's a book called Common Sense About Police Review, which was done in 1994 by Douglas W. Perez. And then I went on the web last night, and Eugene, Oregon went through this sort of review advisory committee process between July of 97 and February of 98, the final report to the city council from Eugene, Oregon, just, sister city. And they had a nice little charts and
I think that those are interesting ideas, and I'm sure that there's some truth in what they're saying, but I'm not sure that it's widely applicable to every jurisdiction. One of the biggest problems we face is credibility with the public. And that's going to be the hardest piece to recapture. We never had it in some communities. We had it significantly in other communities, and then everything in between. We've now lost a lot of ground in the area of public confidence, and I see this as a method of restoring that confidence, which I think is critical to getting to where we are. So I would support this even if we weren't referring it. In fact, I'm a little disappointed that we're referring it, because if everybody thinks, or almost everybody, excuse me, thinks this is such a good idea, then what are we waiting for? Because the reality is that there are complaints made every day now. And those complaints are being handled in the same old way. And everybody's hoping that because of the scrutiny, that there is a better result now. But I don't know that that's happening. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. So I'm a little reluctant to send it off to another commission, another group of people. I would frankly much rather us just vote for it today, but at a minimum, I think we ought to vote to support the idea if we're going to send it off. And since the maker of the motion agrees to sending it off, I guess nothing I can do about it.
Well, I think it's only fair to let this panel comment on it as well. However, all right, are you done? Mr. Burnson.
Yes, first of all, let me just say that the county's oversight situation is quite different from the city's. And in all due respect, and I respect Sheriff Baca and what he's trying to do, however, I think that for us to try to keep imposing more restrictions, more oversight, the committee has already been appointed to look at the situation. We already have our commission, which is supposed to be our civilian oversight. What we basically are doing is we are tying the hands more and more of our police officers. And I'll give you an example. I don't know if I can do this in 3 minutes, but I'll do my best. I had some officers came in to see me about situation. He's an officer that has to investigate all complaints that are made by civilians now. All complaints, regardless of whether they are frivolous or appear to be frivolous on the surface. There has to be an extensive investigation that is conducted in each particular case. And that part of that is okay. I don't have a problem with investigating, but some of them are absolutely just didn't like the fact they got a ticket. You know, that requires an investigation. So he has had his hands tied to the point where he doesn't have time to do his regular duties. He's bogged down with paperwork and is considering retiring after 28 years of service to LAPD. Now, that's not what you want to achieve. And yes, we do want to have respectability, and we do want to have the ability to look at complaints that are deemed to be legitimate, serious complaints, and they should be investigated. But in my opinion, adding another body to what we already have is going to be a step in the wrong direction if you really want your police department to do what they're supposed to be doing, and that's to protect you and to protect our property and everything else. Because the more red tape and the more obstacles you throw in their path, the less ability they're going to have to perform their duties. I'm not going to support this. I don't have an objection if we send it to them for oversight, but if you're asking me to support this as a motion, there's no way I can do that.
Right at the moment, we have the original motion to refer it to committee. We have Mr. Wax's suggestion that we send it to committee with an endorsement. We have Ms. Goldberg's suggestion that we not send it to committee, but just vote on it. And we have yours that is send it, but without an endorsement. Okay. Okay. Just trying to keep tabs here. All right. Mr. Holden is next.
These motions are sent to committee or to send to the commission?
I'm sorry, it's to the independent review panel. You're right.
All right, fine. I have no problem with that, and let them make that decision. I think the time will come, hopefully very soon, when we will individually decide that we have one police chief and we are not it. Every day I turn on television or if I read the newspaper, then I'm learning that one of my colleagues or more, or even here as they vote and speak, are saying that they know more about how to police the criminal than the trained officer, or where they and when they should be deployed. One side of their mouth, they say, let's put them in people's living room as senior lead officers. The other side of their mouth, they say, well, let's put them on the streets because the streets are not safe, which clearly shows that they don't know anything about policing or deploying police officers. So the public who's watching Channel 35 should not pay any attention to these people who are trying to decide how to police the criminal and make their communities safer. And so I think that's rightfully belong, if it's an idea, concept to be considered, with the police commission and let them decide. They're in charge if they want to have another layer to tell them what to do or go through the process. We have civilians on the police review board right now, along with the other police officers, deciding when a police officer is out of step or when he should be corrected, at least his conduct. I think that we're making too much of a political football out of this, and I'm tired of catching the punt. At least that is, the chief is. So I think the time has come where we should leave it to the proper authorities. I know they should just study it, review it. The structure they have in the county, they don't have a police commission over there in the county. There's no police commission in the county. So therefore, you don't have civilians. Autocratic. So he can do what he wants to do, and he can accept it or reject it. I worked over there for 12, 13 years, and golly, I got to tell you, the record is not that good. It's much better over here when it comes to law enforcement. And Block is doing a good job to turn that around. That's fine. I like what Block was doing as well. I have no complaints. It's just a big operation, and one person can't manage it. We need a commission like we have over here, and it's working as best it can. And they say if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I'm going to listen to some of my colleagues because they have more police training than Chief Parks or I do.
Mr. Hernandez.
Madam Chair, I'll make my comments fairly quick. I think, again, the course we're taking of sending it to review to the panel is important at this moment. I want to point out a difference. When we were dealing with the Christopher Commission recommendations, and we were dealing with the reform process at that time, one of the recommendations was more civilian participation in the oversight, not only from the commission perspective, but also dealing with some of the processes of review of some of these cases. At that time, I think that the police union had a definite position, and there was a compromise in that we had 2 officers as part of that review panel and 1 civilian. And I think they've seen the dedication of civilians in this process, and what you heard today is they're supporting more civilian participation in this process. And I think that's a very important difference at this time. The other thing is, the reality is that the department's being questioned in regards to oversight as a whole, and we're facing that process in terms of public credibility. So I think that, again, this is a good time for us to look at these models and to come back with a recommendation. One of my concerns, as someone who feels very strongly about the Christopher Commission, as someone who got elected, basically taking the position that I would support those recommendations, is that I also respect the role of the commission. And I think that this particular direction allows us to do both those things. So again, I just ask that we look at it quickly, that there some kind of review process happens, because the mood that exists in the city today in regards to this review could change. And I think it's important that we look at it and we try and form an institution that develops credibility for the department and the people who work at that department and the citizens of the city of Los Angeles.
Okay, we have basically we have nobody else listed who wants to speak. I'm sure that'll change, but at the moment there's nobody else. So we have Ms. Mizikowski's motion to refer this to the independent panel for their comment, and then it will obviously come back to us. Open the roll. Just refer it. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes, 1 no.
All right, that's approved and referred. Next item.
That we also send a recommendation that we support the concept.
I didn't call it for a vote because I had a request not to send it with a recommendation. I had a request to send it with a recommendation.
But my
want
request is
all right, so you want to amend
in addition to that.
All
yeah.
right, so okay. So we have now Mr. Wax's recommendation that we, or motion that we send with the item we've already referred, a recommendation supporting it. Supporting the concept.
Ask for a no vote.
Yes, Mr. Fewer.
Just as a point of order, just to be clear, and in part because I was standing over there for a
Yes,
second.
go ahead.
We have two competing ideas. Is that right? Mr. Wax's motion, which is to do what was just stated, and Ms. Mizakowski's motion, which is
just to
sa-
refer it.
So I think with additional statements, and didn't you add something to that? And that's what I wanted to hear.
Well, that it was substantive support for a concept, not necessarily a specific implementation, just saying it was part of the whole package of reform.
Yeah.
Substantive
okay.
change.
And that which I would support.
All right, so
Well, then
now,
that's what I want.
okay, but that's what I think we did. So, Mr. Burnson, do you want to change your vote?
Well, first of all, if we were going to refer it to committee, that's fine.
It's-
But if you're going to make a substantive recommendation, that's not fine.
All right, well, okay, let's change Mr. Burnson's vote to a no, which does not change the
Why don't
outcome.
we take a
then you can
separate
change
vote on
mine
whether we
to
want a
aye.
substantive?
All right,
Why don't we vote, Ruth?
Why don't we re-vote
we're
on
going to
this?
revote the whole thing. First, we're going to vote, we're going to do it the way we should have done it the first place. First, we're going to vote to, no, but I don't think it's an amendment, but let's treat it as if it were an amendment. The
Friendly
basic
one.
motion was just to refer it to the panel for their comments. And we'll treat it as an amendment, since that's the part that seems to be controversial here, to refer it with to add to that a support in, a recommendation of support in concept for this kind of a plan, without the specifics.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're voting them separately.
Okay.
Okay? So first, we're going to vote to to amend it with the recommendation for support of this plan in concept. Okay? Open the roll on the amendment. Nope, sorry. Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay. All right. Close the roll, tabulate the vote. What did we get?
9 ayes, 5 noes.
All right, that's approved. Now, that amends the basic motion, which was to refer it to the panel. So it's now being referred to the, if we vote yes on this, it's being referred to the panel with the support in concept, as amended. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 3 noes.
Okay, that's approved. Okay, everybody happy? Can we go on now? Okay. All right, next item. Did I hear a no over there? Watch your mouth if you said no. All right, next item.
Item 35, called special by Councilmember Hernandez.
Maybe we should just treasure the moment when everybody was happy. Okay. Item, yeah, never mind, happy is what we're doing. All right, item 35, Mr. Hernandez, and could you push the speaker button, please? Yeah. Okay, here we go, go ahead.
Members of the council, I introduced the motion on item 35 to have the Department of Housing come back to us with some recommendations as to how we could provide more teeth to the REAP program. And what I want to point out to everybody is we had a motion last week to remove a project from REAP that had been in there since December 14th of 1990 for 10 years. And in those 10 years, they had not received any rent escrow monies. And the reality is, the reason we were asking to remove it from the REAP program is the building had been demolished. And so we take a lot of actions to put housing into REAP. Right now, there is no other council district that has more buildings in the REAP program than mine. I have 111, but those 111 buildings represent almost 1,600 housing units for families. And I don't build that many units a year. But I can share with you that I have housing in there that's been there since 1991, 92. I have one unit here on Pico Boulevard that's been in there since February 28, 1992, and the REAP escrow account has accumulated a grand total of $721. Many of these REAP cases don't have any escrow amounts at all. Some of them have large dollars, but nothing's happening with the buildings. And I think the intent of REAP was to create habitable housing for tenants, to make sure landlords and property owners made that housing habitable. And so putting it in the program is not sufficient. It's not sufficient. And it's a voluntary program from the tenant's perspective. And so I wanted some kind of a review process to go on within the housing department as to what we have to do to clear up some of these units that are in REAP that basically are just sitting there. And how is it that we can develop further teeth to deal with this issue of giving the department the tools necessary to make that housing habitable again. The goal should not be to have something in REAP forever. The goal should be to get something out of REAP as soon as possible. And what are the things we need to do that as a city? And so that's the purpose of the motion. The housing department's in support of looking at this program, and I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention, because as we put these units in REAP, it doesn't mean that we've given the department the tools to actually make them habitable, rentable, and deal with the issues that our tenants are complaining in the first place about.
Mr. Fewer.
I wanted to thank Mr. Hernandez for bringing in this motion, because especially the first moving clause of the motion, which essentially asks for, I think, Mike, even more than a description, but really how to assure the best possible working relationship among the various entities that deal with substandard housing in the city. Because as you point out, the alphabet soup has some benefits and also some real detriments, I think. There are people who don't know what the other unit is doing, and the issue of how long buildings have remained in REAP is one issue, but just, I think, cutting through all the acronyms, the real question is, how do we have a housing department that is efficiently geared up to assure that we don't have families living in slum housing conditions? What's the most effective way to do that, given that we have, as a piecemeal matter, introduced one program, then another, then another? And, as Mike mentioned, his district is among those with the most number of units in desperate need of the kind of attention that all of us have been trying to deal with. And that's why I think, Mike, it's a very appropriate, it's a great thing to have us examine. And I think that from a budgetary standpoint, one issue we're going to have to deal with is assuring that there are sufficient resources to get the job done collectively when we cut through all this stuff. So, anyway, so we'll talk more about that. But I just think it's a good idea to have this before us.
Mrs. Chick.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez, I also rise in support of you doing this, and I would assume that one of the top priority questions is going to be, how do these things happen that you described to us, and how can we fix it? But I also would be interested to find out what the budget is annually of that unit within the housing department, what the budget is, what their mandate is, because part of the solution might be in how staff is being allocated and what their priorities are. But certainly it's a problem that needs to be solved as we keep looking for more housing, that this demolishing of buildings is the path of last resort. So I'd be interested when you share those answers with us.
Okay, item 35 is before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item.
Item 36, call special by Councilmember Holden.
Mr. Holden, push the speaker button, please.
Part of my question has been answered. I just wanted to know whether or not the Archdiocese still owns the building. Obviously, according to the motion, they do not. However, this motion is asking that the city chief legislative analyst work with the developer to establish, basically if we can need anything there, which means that this developer is he's a pretty smart guy. I don't know how much he paid for this building, but he got the state to put up $4 million already. He's going to get the county to put up some money to buy some space. He's going to get the city to try and open up a library there. He has this whole thing planned out even before he acquired it. And that's what Mr. Hernandez has been talking about from time to time, the have versus the have-nots. Are you going to give us a report on this? Would you hold my time to find out what can we give him, if anything, and what are they asking for, if anything, and what it's going to cost the city to subsidize his project?
I'll hold your time when you stop talking. Go ahead.
Jerry Miller, the Chief Legislative Analyst. At this point, we're not proposing to give anything. The developer does own the property. There are talks about placing a branch library on the site, as well as The developer does need to construct about 950 parking spaces, and there may be an opportunity for some shared-use parking for city employees, since the lion's share of their parking would be needed at night. So all this motion does is allow formal discussions to take place. Anything that would occur would have to come back to the council for approval.
That's true, but you know and I know that if you start out saying, let's decide if we're going to have a library there, we're subsidizing his building because that's the basis for which he used to finance his building based on what the potential income is going to be. He can leverage that. Or anything else we decide we want to agree with him to do. I mean, I don't know whether or not the building was paid for, how much money he paid for it, and it just another clear example of how we can go very easily about how do we subsidize developers and make rich people richer, when a community-based organization could do that, and it will stay within the community and not in somebody's bank account remote from central Los Angeles. And I just have some concerns about how we keep doing this day in and day out. I like to have our city library, but I like for us to own them like we own right now. It's like we had the Central Library. They try to do that on a sale leaseback, which means that if they've been successful, the people of this city would not have owned the library at all. We have an item on the agenda today where they're going to up the rent 50% for 10,000 square feet, the landlord. And you just pay and pay and pay. When you own it, you don't pay that. It just seemed to me, once again, to be a sneaky maneuver to subsidize this developer.
Would you like to hear from the council member of the district?
Oh, hey, same difference. What I'm saying is she may want it, that's fine, and I might support that, because that's what she wants. But I am not in favor of saying, let's put a library down there, and then have this guy up the rent, and up the rent, and up the rent. That's what's happening on these other items. What item is that, Steve? Item 12, take a look in the book today. 50% up every time you go back to renew the lease. So, no, I like to hear from her, yes. But this is something I'm not going to pay for.
Mrs. Walters.
Thank you, Madam President. Have the councilman from the 10th district contacted my office or contacted the library, he would know that the bond requirement is that the library own the land. And so there will be no lease at this site like there was in Koreatown that cost us so very dearly. This, council members, is a wonderful deal, I believe, for the city. Mr. Gilmore and his associates have come to rehabilitate Main Street, Spring Street, Los Angeles Street with their own money. They are not coming, they have not asked for one subsidy from the city. I wish I had 10 other folks like him walking through the door, offering their own money. Thank you very much. Mr. Gilmore and his associates have quite extensive plans for that area. And the motion here asks that the CLA be instructed, with the assistance of other departments as appropriate, to enter into discussions with Gilmore and Associates to define any issues with the development that impact the city and to report back. That's all the motion asks. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So this motion contains no subsidies. It's not asking that Mr. Gilmore be offered a subsidy. Mr. Gilmore is not asking for a subsidy that I know of at this point. He's doing a wonderful job. We've had a lot of folks, and one in particular in town, that is devoted to this historic core, but it's all done with city money. And this is no city money, it's Mr. Gilmore and Associates' own financing. And I'm very pleased that he has chosen to do that, and I'm very pleased that the library is going there. The state has put money in there for Cal State to locate an extension there. And so this is a great project for the city.
Mr. Holden for the second time.
You say the library will own the land if they go there?
That's correct. In order to
That means
bond,
we have to buy it from him?
in order to bond fund it, the library has to own the facility.
We have to own the facility?
Right.
The entire facility?
Just the library.
Anything funded with bond proceeds.
Well, that means this guy won't own it anymore.
The library itself, that's correct.
But the library itself. You can build a separate building for the library?
Again, he's still developing the plans, but whatever the city funds with library bond proceeds, the city will have to own that library.
You try and work that one out.
That's what the motion is
I
to
know,
have them go
I
try
won't
and
be-
work it out.
I won't be able to read and understand that Greek.
Sure you will,
Guess what it's gonna
$35
be?
an
It's
hour.
going to be Greek, yeah, $35 an hour. And regarding the library in Koreatown, I tell you, just for background information, the old library was demolished, and they had to relocate. They had no place to go, so they leased the building. And they decided they liked it so much, they bought it and renovated it. So the library, the city does own it. And I'm glad you all gave us support on that one. The vote was 16-0. Well, the mayor concurred. 15 of us. But on this, we'll hear what they have to say. And if they not coming back asking for a subsidy like they did for the state in order to really support the loan that they floated to buy the property, I mean, we're going to take a hard look at it because I think that's what happened. And we're not going to bail them out. I don't think Ms. Walters want to do it. She's not saying that at all. She's just saying, let them look at a library, let them look at anything, let them look at parking. But there'll be no subsidy, and I like that.
Mr. Hernandez.
Members of the council, I just wanted to try and put this in perspective. I appreciate Mr. Golden's comments and Ms. Walters' comments. I think Mr. Gilmore, it's no secret, has a whole plan for Spring Street. And that's to revive the historic core of basically our business community because of its historic richness. And he's looking at several buildings in that development. Now, it takes that kind of a visionary to create the kinds of concepts that you see, for example, in Old Town Pasadena, where people work to create certain dynamics. And I think that St. Viviana's, we all dealt with the debate of whether you tear it down or you preserve it. And to make the project work, you got to look at it on the corridor, and you got to look at it in terms of its parking and its other spaces. And I think that's what the CLA's office is saying, that the overall plan is being developed at this time. And I think that what Ms. Walters' motion is doing is let's work with that plan. Let's look at that plan. But I didn't want to look at St. Viviana's by itself. The reality is there's several buildings on the corridor that are being looked at. And to make the whole plan work, all these things have to come in place. It's no secret that the state of California owns land next door to St. Viviana's and kitty corner to it. And I think their participation is part of that process. And it's no secret that the city of Los Angeles has invested tremendously in trying to revive the historic core. And so again, I stand to support the motion by Ms. Walters. I think that again, it's not making a financial commitment at this time, but what it's doing is let's participate in the plan and see how it is that we can make it work for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Open the roll on item,
We might do that.
where are we here? 36. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. I got you. 16 votes in favor. Yeah, we got it. Next item.
Item 44, called special by Councilmember Goldberg.
Okay, Ms. Goldberg, before we start on item 4, let me just inform you, council members, that Chief Parks wants to talk with us about item 46, and he is in a deposition. They're supposed to give him a break around lunchtime, and so we're hoping to hear from him sometime between 11:30 and 12, if they give him a break, and he's going to come talk to us instead of eating lunch. No, we don't get a break for lunchtime. No way. So, what do I get in exchange? All right, item 44, called special by Ms. Goldberg. So, let's start with you.
I guess, we were given a map and a chart that has fire stations built since 1970. The map says 80, so I don't know how they fit, but I'm assuming that they're all together. And if you were to take a look at Council District 1, it doesn't do much better if you go back to 1970 into what has happened in that district. And since that's one of the oldest parts of the city, has the highest number of multiples, has the largest number probably of fire deaths in recent memory, I'm not sure I understand why that happened. If you take into account 0 for Council District 13 now and only 2 since 1970, I think we're still probably underrepresented. The only group that does better is 14 because they had quite a few since 1970. So I guess I'm still concerned about what the criteria were for selection. Age is one thing, distance is one thing, but how about the amount of calls that are made to an area, the number of deaths due to fire in an area? Since then also I've received a letter from the African Firefighters and Benevolent Association. I don't know if other people received it or not, but they're concerned also about the response times in areas that have high incidence because of population density, and they're also worried that future training sites being located, the new ones all being located largely in the west side and the valley, will have a dramatic effect on recruitment and the relationship of the fire department to communities of South Central and Central Los Angeles. So I guess my concern is still that, I mean, I want to have fire service everywhere in the city. I want to make sure that we cover all the bases. But I am concerned that this bond issue, the criteria is not clear from looking at the maps and even comparing it with what happened prior to this bond issue in 1970, that what we have really done is take a good look at the needs of a significant portion of the population of the city, even though the distance may be smaller. And I'm curious as to who was on the committee that made these recommendations, where they live, and whether or not such factors as density and the possibility of a deleterious effect on recruitment of minority firefighters was taken into account in making these placements.
Okay, well, that used up your time. So answer the questions briefly if you can, and I have at least 2 more people who want to be heard.
Okay, briefly, the whole plan is focused around the regional fire stations and the ability to decentralize training and get those out into the areas. They do not fall evenly within council districts. Some of them are literally across the street from a different council district. Fire Station 82 in the Hollywood area will certainly serve the Hollywood area, but because of the fact that it's just north of Franklin, it's in a different council district. Fire Station 13 in the Koreatown area is literally across the street from CD1. So these areas, even though the physical plant is in one council district, the service area expands and covers numerous council districts.
Her other question was who made up the committee that put the list together?
The fire department has to answer that. Chief Prince should answer that. The fire department reviewed all their facility needs and identified this list of priorities.
So is it a fair statement that it was higher level management in the fire department that
Chief
made
Prince
the list?
was involved with the prioritization.
Brief answer.
Roy Prince, Battalion Chief, Building Administration Section. This is essentially the same proposal that we put on the April ballot with some minor changes. And we thought that this would be a better proposal, be more successful with the voters. The master plan that was developed in the planning section within the fire department under the direction of the fire chief, with several people having input into our concerns over the next 20 years. Although this master plan hasn't been fully adopted yet, the opportunity to go for bond was a necessary need, and all these sites were identified in it. The three changes that we made in the regional sites were actually for us to be a little more fiscally responsible in locating those in existing sites and available properties. Fire Station 94, as you know, is in dire need of help right now, and this is an opportunity to not only bring that fire station back to a functional fire station, but include it in the proposal and upgrade it to a regional training site.
Okay, Ms. Mizikowski.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the council, I think we're coming to some hard reality here. We have, each of us in our own districts, more stations that need to be rebuilt, and many of them are equally as old as some of those that are on the ballot. And there's just some choices we have to make. And I think one of the things that the map attempted to do, and I think the chief now indicated, is that in some instances, the department doesn't look at council district lines. Perhaps it should be more concerned about that, but it really looks at service areas, service lines, and that was their priority. And in some instances, as they have a station that you look at a map and it's shown to be in one council district, it's right on the border, right on the line of another council district. I have a number of those, and that's the way it should be. They should be looking at those service areas. I noted with interest, I also got the American Firefighters in Benevolent Association. It's an unsigned letter. It's just submitted respectfully by the board. But it's very interesting. Item 9 in that letter mentions 3 specific stations, Fire Station 94, Fire Stations 21, and Fire Station 64, all of which are in densely populated residential and commercial African American and Latin American communities, and they indicated these should all be replaced. Members of the council, Fire Station 94, 21, and 64, which are mentioned in that letter, are all in the bond. So someone who wrote this letter wasn't as well informed that, in fact, those areas that this group has put forward as high level for their concerns are all in this bond proposal. It is hard to make some choices, and I think one thing that the department put out that I was pleased to see is, from their building administrative section, is to break down those by council districts where the fire stations serve, that the fire stations serve more than the council district it's located in, what was completed in the last 20 years, what is in this bond, and what is remaining to be in the future bonds, as well as others that are in the current bonds that are going to serve that council district. And I think it was their best effort to show that literally fire stations know no council district or boundary lines, and it really, we have to, I think, in large measure depend on those professional organizations who fight the fires, who provide that public safety at this level, to move forward, unless there's a glaring problem, unless there's a glaring omission. And when we have equally stations in need in all of the areas of our city, we just have to make some of those hard choices, and I am strongly recommending that we put this on the ballot in November.
Let me just point out that today is the last day for us to act, to instruct. Tomorrow? Tomorrow is the last day for us to instruct in order to get this on the ballot, and August 4th, I believe, is the last day for us to take final action. Mrs. Chick.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to support going forward with this bond today for a variety of reasons. It's not because I think we should be questioning or overriding the fire department and telling them where the improvement should be made. And it's not about, as council members, we often fight over limited resources to make sure we deliver to our district. And it's certainly not about questioning that there's a need, because I've known for many years the pressing need that we have in our 3 public safety departments: fire department, animal services, and police department. These are pressing needs today, and we know they're even more so in the future. But it's the how we do things that I have a problem with. For instance, since we've all known about this need, and we've gone to the public before, and we've done a lot of the homework, why did we once again wait until just a few weeks before the deadline to bring this forward? And it came forward minus a lot of essential information that has subsequently now come to us extremely late: maps, locations, etc. I still feel there are blanks in the discussion about other costs besides what we will be spending in facilities improvements, costs of maintenance of these facilities, increased cost for staffing, which is a question I would like answered. Are any of these improvements on fire stations enlargements to take more staff? And what are the future increased costs that would be ongoing from the general fund? But we know that the fire department is having very serious problems in maintaining and reaching and maintaining numbers of adequate paramedics and firefighters. And it seems to me that what we should be having before us in a very thoughtful way is not something piecemeal at the last minute, the facilities needs, but the overall needs. What are we doing to meet the staffing needs in the fire department? How does that fit together in a package as a piece with the plan for facilities before we go asking the public to fund that? And aren't we, in a way, doing the cart before the horse? Because in terms of putting our time, our energy, our expert talent and resources, much less the public's money, into a top priority for public safety fire department, it should be making sure we have the staff that we need and then the facilities.
Okay, now your
Thank
time
you.
is up. Let's get the answer to the question. Are these facilities going to require additional staff?
The answer is no. These are all replacement stations except for the satellite station in the harbor area where they're going to assign one single engine. It's my understanding they're going to use an engine from another area to assign there. As far as other costs that are associated with this, there'll be no staff costs. There will be the cost of maintaining and operating the facilities. Because they're, again, all replacement facilities, we estimate it will be a cost of less than $1 million a year once all 19 are done. As far as...
And if you don't replace them, you have to maintain them anyway.
And the cost of maintaining a lot of the older ones is more problematic and more expensive. I'd like to give an example of what's trying to be accomplished here. There's a single bay fire station in the northeast area. The city, it's an old one, very old. The city has grown since that one was built. And now most of the calls that station responds to are far away, and it takes a while. They want to relocate that single base station closer to where the calls are. More importantly, though, because it's a single base station, all they've got is a paramedic vehicle and a single triple engine combination there. They don't have the other task force equipment that they'd like to assign there. They want to build a regional nearby so that they either want to relocate this one to another area where they'll have room to put all the equipment they need to more efficiently respond, because now they have to bring the other equipment from elsewhere, or get a regional in that area so that they can store that additional equipment nearby, so they're not going to have such a long time in getting all the equipment needed to respond in place. That's why they've come up with these priorities. Get those regionals so they could store the backup equipment they need, replace the single bay facilities so that they could put the entire task force together where they belong. This is how they prioritized. There's obviously other needs not addressed here, but there's just a limit as to how big a program we can do effectively.
Okay, why don't you wait and see what other questions people have, and then we may be able to add, you may be getting the same thing again. Mr. Hernandez, I've got 6 people up now. Mr. Hernandez.
And maybe, Mr. Price, you could answer the question for me. What's the Frank Hodgkin Center doing? Why are we trying to acquire the Frank Hodgkin Center? As you know, a lot of community groups want to use it.
The Frank Hodgkin Center is an ideal training facility for us.
Members of Council, I just want you to hear that. It's an ideal training facility for us. Right. And from a regional perspective, what purpose would it serve?
Tremendous. We could, and we are doing it as we speak, training not only our personnel there, but we have training for other fire resources from around the county and outside our county. They come for several training seminars there. We do cooperative things with both the ATF and the FBI.
Now, how much money is in this bond issuance for the Frank Hodgkin Center?
None.
Right. Now,
And Councilman, that was not the fire department's choice.
see, members of the council, I want people to understand that. Whose choice was it?
Well, at some point in time, there was a line drawn within the overall proposal. There was a total of 37 fire stations, Frank Hodgkins, Valley Fire Prevention offices, and all those other facilities.
But you're
were
also
on the
talking
original
about a network of regional training centers.
That's right.
It's a basic philosophical change of direction. Okay, to build 5 or 6 of them versus what? Now, Mr. Mercer, the arguments you just gave, I didn't hear you talk about the Highland Park station that same way. I didn't hear you talk about the stations in my district that were built when the fire trucks were driven by horses, who have the same limitations. Now, when I heard Mr. Price say, and we took political considerations as to where we thought the bond issuance could get passed, no, you said that in your statement. You actually said.
No, I
that
said
you thought-
fiscal, sir.
Okay, where it would pass. Now, I need you to understand that the inner city has continuously supported the fire department on these bond issuances. I'm not seeing this, see, I am convinced I shouldn't vote for this. I am convinced I should campaign against it. Unless I hear that the Frank Hodgkins Center is being addressed as part of this plan, I don't see a reason to support it.
The difference, the decision that was made by the parties that recommend this approach is that, well, first of all, to distinguish Frank Hodgkins from the regional stations. The regional stations will be used for in-service training. That's firefighters who are already on duty, who currently have to go to remote locations being taken off duty in order to get their in-service training. The Frank Hodgkins was to be a recruit training center. We agree that's a very important need. But the approach that's recommended for you to take
Recommended
is to look
by
at,
who?
By the Director of ORS, by the CLA, is that you...
Okay, I disagree with that direction.
And that is
Now,
that
is
you
it my
address-
right to make that decision or yours?
It's up to you.
Thank you.
Well, okay, wait, hold on. First of all, your time's up, and second of all, he was careful to say it's a recommendation.
Right.
So that's covered. Yes,
Can I
Chief.
make one comment, please? Over the last 20 months or so, we have made several improvements to the Frank Hodgkins training facility. We took $380,000 from a fire department's vacated fire facilities trust fund money and repaired the roof. General Services has come in and assisted us and repaired the large retaining wall on the backside of the gymnasium to prevent the leakage that we've gotten from groundwater, or not the groundwater, but the seepage coming from the rain. The recruit training program is taking place right now. Some of their funding has enabled us to pave the upper lot and move all the training props to that upper lot. We've improved several of the rooms down in the basement and created classrooms there. We improved a storage room area for the recruit training captains. There was, right now underway is a renovation of an area in the basement for female firefighters for locker room and shower facilities, which has been inadequate all along. We have
Mr. Price, I've been working with the department on all those issues.
You're on the
okay.
list to come back up,
Yeah.
but there's several people who haven't talked yet, so you can fight them in a few minutes. Mr. Fewer is next.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to support this today, and I am going to do so because, first, while there have been a lot of discussions in the press about our shortages in terms of firefighters and particularly paramedics, and those shortages are extremely important to us, these stations, as was stated, are replacing stations that already exist. Put another way, they're giving the firefighters we have already on the force, the firefighters and paramedics, adequate facilities from which to work, which I think is critical to the ability of our firefighters and paramedics to deliver the response time to critical emergencies that we all consider to be necessary. I also want to make a couple amendments to this. One is that the language of the ballot measure provide that if, as has happened in other bond measures, there are savings because the buildings are built not only on time but under budget, that with those savings, the department simply goes to the next prioritized station. Because, as we've all discussed, this is the first stage in a multi-phase approach to improving our firefighting facilities. And I hope there's a second for that. That would be a good thing for us to do. And I speak as someone, by the way, who has a library under construction in my district now that was not supposed to be built with bond funds from a prior bond measure, but was in fact the next one in line to be built, and there were savings. And as a consequence, there will be a library, a new one, much sooner in Studio City than otherwise would have been the case because of efficiencies here. The other amendments that I'd like to make actually emanate from recommendations from WARS, which include directing the oversight committees created for these programs to begin meeting to plan for implementation, direct the affected general managers to designate their liaison staff members to these programs, particularly the city engineer's designation of the Bureau's program managers, direct the city engineer to immediately start the RFQ process to select the necessary architects to design the fire facilities at stake, and direct general services to start the process to acquire the necessary land parcels for these projects. And I offer those amendments, for which I hope there is a second, because I think they'll be expediting the process.
Could you make sure we have copies?
Yes, I will. But I offer those amendments in the following, and offer my support for the instruction to the city attorney that I hope the majority will give today in the following spirit. I looked at the charts citywide as to where the fire facilities were being placed. And as someone whose council district is slated to get one of these facilities, and that one, by the way, is to replace a facility that frankly is temporary trailers at a site that was demolished after the earthquake, and the firefighters have been working out of that for a long time. This gives them a real facility. One facility, and two in the prior years. I wanted to see if that was proportionately greater or less than what is happening by and large throughout the city. Because after all, our fire needs don't follow council lines, they follow other important boundaries in the city.
And your time is up.
And my time is up, but I want to conclude by saying that that tally would place my district pretty much in the middle. There are 4 districts getting more new fire stations and others which have had many more built in the past couple of years.
Okay.
But it seems to me we should look at this as a citywide matter, and as a citywide matter, it belongs on the ballot.
Thank you. Mrs. Walters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Council members, I would hate to see that through our bickering, we would lose this opportunity to pass a much-needed bond issue for the fire department. There's a station in my district that I would like to have seen included, but it didn't make the list. But that does not remove the need for fire protection in the city and for the enhancing of other stations or the building of other new stations. I think that the need overrides our parochial concerns, and I would urge us to vote for this. I think that the fire department has been hampered in the past because perhaps people didn't want to vote for police facilities, but they were willing to support the fire department. And this is going without a police bond attached to it. And I think that it needs to go on the ballot, and we need to support it and get it done. So I'm urging us to put aside our concerns. That doesn't say that we don't have them, that they don't need to be addressed, but they cannot address everything in one bond issue. Let's get this one passed and then begin work on the next one.
Mr. Holden.
What I think you ought to do really is, as what you've done per district, list the fire stations per district, which you have in the sub-sheets here, but do a profile composite, which will show the number of fire stations per district, a composite, and the ones that that you're recommending to be retrofitted or rebuilt or rebuilt, and compare the life, the age of it. Now, there are some complaints about the fact that in the West LA, I think you're doing 4 fire stations. In the Valley, you're doing 5 fire stations. It's 5, 9, 7, 7. 7, 4 is 11. Out of the total of 19, that's not where your population density is. And that's what Ms. Goldberg is talking about. Now, if there's a critical need to repair a station, replace a station in the inner city, and you're sacrificing that at this time to try and get some votes, then you're probably not going to get the votes anyway, because the votes for support the bond measures usually are right here in the inner city, notwithstanding the fact that the Valley or West LA would gain from it. They just don't vote for things like this, public safety, in law, percentage-wise. So you have to, I believe, justify or show why it's a critical need to replace the fire station, as you did with Fire Station 94, which is really in District 8, not my district. That's Coliseum and King. That's Mr. Wrigley Thomas, but it serves my area and it serves his area. So it's fair to say you can list it in my district, but it's really in Mr. Thomas's district. And the boundaries are artificial anyway, because every 10 years the boundaries are redrawn, and like I see here, Fire Station in the 14th district, about 5 or 6 of them just recently, but over the past 10, 12 years, I guess. But when you draw the boundaries, some have been added into the 14th, or added into the 1st, or added into the 8th or the 9th, based on the fact that the boundaries be redrawn. But if those stations on the west side need to be replaced, and there's a greater need than the inner city, we want to hear about that, and I will support it. If you got 7 in the valley that needs to be replaced, and there's a critical need for it, the same as for Station 21, Fire Station 94, we know the floor fell in. They couldn't take those heavy vehicles anymore. It had to be replaced. In fact, you shut down already, and you move those trucks over to my district over in the Crenshaw, Martin Luther King area and DWP parking lot, temporarily. So what I'm saying is that you got to show that kind of a essential need. Did the floor fall in 7 in the valley? Did the ceiling fall in?
Okay,
Was it
Mr.
about to
Holden.
fall in? Did it,
You've made your point.
if
Your
you can
time
show that
is up.
critical need, you're going to have my vote.
Okay.
If you can't show that critical need,
Mr. Holden.
you might still have my vote.
If I could just respond to that very, very briefly. Fire Station 64, which is at 108th and Main, is a facility that has just outgrown its needs in the community. It was designed for a task force, so there's currently a task force and 2 additional rescue ambulances, one of which is running out of the side yard because there's no space in the station. So we recognize those throughout the city.
Mr. Burnson.
This whole discussion kind of makes everybody wonder what politics is all about wondering about public safety issues on council lines. That's not what this is about. This is about public safety. This is about the fire department, which has that responsibility of knowing what needs to be replaced, and we should respect that. And I'm going to tell you, I'm more concerned, frankly, about the personnel issue of not having the personnel to man adequately the current stations that we have than I am worried about this. And I think that's something that we need to deal with as a council, not out of general obligation bonds, but out of our budget when we review our budget. Also, I think that I'm going to vote to put it on the ballot because I think that the taxpayers who are going to pay this bill will make the decision about whether they should move forward or not. And I'm not going to campaign against it. I don't know that I'm going to campaign for it. I want to give the people the opportunity to vote on it. And I think that the fire department's going to have to sell that to the public, that this need is necessary. And I think that it may be in some cases. And I think the department is best suited to know where the replacement should take place. Some of us are very fortunate. I know I have a newer district than most in the city, and our facilities are probably in pretty good shape by comparison. So I don't get up and complain that my district may not get anything. I mean, I recognize the fact that this is a city, and we're dealing on a citywide bond issue, and the replacements should go where they're needed the most, and all this squabbling over district lines should be forgotten because it doesn't sound good and it doesn't play well, and it's not going to help the cause, frankly, of people who want to see this issue passed.
Thank you, Mr. Burnson. The chair recognizes Councilman Ridley Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 points that were made that caused me to want to encourage our favorable disposition of this matter. The first comment was made by Councilwoman Walters, and secondly by Councilmember Bernson. And I want to, if you can imagine, I want to try to tie these comments up in the following way. For the past several years, the majority of the past 7 years during the current administration, we've placed a considerable amount of emphasis on public safety, and perhaps appropriately so. But the main of that focus has been on law enforcement, specifically the police department. Many of us have argued for a considerable amount of that time that public safety is not a one-dimensional proposition, and that we have what we think to be a very impressive fire department. The firefighters themselves show an extraordinary level of competence and indeed valor on a daily basis. It would seem to me that if we believe that, if we are prepared to evidence our commitment to the highest quality of fire service possible, knowing that it is not perfect, this is such an opportunity to make good on our support for the fire department itself. This has implications for the environment in which the firefighters work. It also speaks to the issue of how we advance the quality of service our respective constituents will receive. And so I want to urge us to support moving forward with this effort. There is little, if I can say so, to be gained, and potentially to loss, a little to be lost, I wish to say, and a lot to be gained. And it would seem to me that we would want to embrace that for our communities, for the firefighters, and for the good of the city. This is not a last shot. This is one step that we perhaps ought to take in the right direction, and I would wish to urge all of you to consider it in that regard. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley Thomas. The chair recognizes Councilman Pacheco.
Mr. President, colleagues, I simply rise to respectfully disagree with my colleague, Councilmember Bernson. I think it is appropriate for each council member to look out for their district and ask questions, and to see if the services that are going to be provided through this bond are necessary for their district, or if their district has already been taken care of through previous bonds. At the Public Safety Committee meeting, I had recommended to the fire department that as soon as possible they brief every single council member who was not directly impacted within their district boundaries in this bond. I was a little disappointed in the sort of slow response that occurred in that matter. I'm pleased to see that they have developed a district-by-district report, and a review of my district indicates that there were quite a number of fire stations that were recently completed, about 5 that were recently completed fire stations. So I believe at some point, and there's 2 more coming up in any future bonds, I believe at some point we do have to look at what's in the best interest of the city, but I don't think it's necessarily inappropriate for us to ask the tough questions regarding our district. I will be supporting this bond. I will also fight vigorously for the upcoming police bond, because there's some definite stations that the 14th Council District needs some repair and some upgrading. So obviously, I would expect some reciprocity when it comes to the police bond. Reciprocity, I know you looked at me funny, Councilmember Ridley Thomas, but that means equal and exchanged support. So
I don't think
I'm
so.
just giving you a heads up that the future police bond is important to my district. But this is also, as I indicated, something that I did ask some tough questions, and the fire department did adequately respond to them.
Hope springs eternal, Mr. Pacheco. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Chick.
Yes. First of all, I'm very aware of how important and essential it is for the council to stand in a consensus and as a body in support of going to the public and asking for something this important. And so I am moving in that direction to join my colleagues who have already committed their vote. In particular, because, and I want to clarify this, the improvements before us do not involve a significant increase in the general fund. If they did, I would certainly want some discussion of that included in what goes on the ballot. In addition, I would like, when I'm finished with my comments, for some feedback in terms of my concern about our staffing needs and how building these regional stations will contribute, along with getting our staffing numbers up, to improving response time and improving the quality of service delivery. Because it was your comments that led me to believe that is the case. That starts to address my concern about facilities while we're not dealing with staffing and service issues. And finally, I would like you to mention briefly what plans are in place and underway, and I'm looking to our fire department managers in terms of dealing with our staffing needs while we are going forward with this. I'm sorry, and also, why did this come so late? Why not 6 weeks ago? I know that the work's all been done on it. Mr. Wax, you had asked in prior sessions and discussions about the mayor's position on this, and as I said, I think if we are going forward, it's important that we all have our concerns addressed and say yes together. So I'm going to raise that issue and would like to ask if someone from the mayor's office would come forward to address us, that if we go forward with the proposal that's before us, that the mayor would be joining us in support. I think without that support, the chances for success are badly damaged. But if staff could address my last question.
If I could start with the timing, Bill Mercer with ORS. The staff spent the first 6 months of the year reevaluating the priorities, reevaluating the scope, and doing new cost estimates. That work was all completed about the middle of May. Middle of May, we put together an extensive briefing paper to go to the mayor's office, the CLA, and Mr. Fujioka. There was a lot to consider in that, and with other things going on in the city and their time devoted to other items that were pressing at that moment, it wasn't until the middle of June that we were finally able to get some discussion as to what was their consensus as to what should go on the ballot. Then we drafted the report to go and got it to the committee. So that's why it took so long. It's just too many things going on in the city for them to spend the time on a complex issue earlier. One issue, I have to raise this, I'm sorry. If the council, when they votes to approve the report before you, one of the recommendations is that, assuming you put an animal services proposal on the ballot too, they be combined, so that you should be aware that that's a recommendation in case you don't want to combine the two. Because that's a recommendation that's in the report the committee approved, yes? So that you should be aware that if you approve the report as written, you'd combine the two. If you want them separate, take an action.
As for the staffing issue, the fire department currently has 90 recruits in training right now, And our plans are to hire an additional 270 at least in the coming 12 months, which would improve our staffing shortfall considerably and should wipe out the shortage and keep up with attrition along the way. What this bond measure does is it gives us greater flexibility in deploying those resources. It doesn't increase the need for more people, but most of these fire stations that are going to be replaced were designed and built before the fire department ran an ambulance service. Now we have ambulances that are we're approaching 100 ambulances out there. Almost every station has one, and we intend to continue to enhance that because, as it's been pointed out, greater than 3/4 of our workload is EMS, and so we want to have those capabilities. The fire stations and the physical plants are limiting us in that capability. So.
Thank you. And Mr. Chick, I believe you wanted to have some response from the mayor's staff also, and we'll make a request at the mayor's staff if they could address some of these issues in the next few minutes. We'll move on to the next speaker and then defer to them when they arrive. The chair recognizes Councilman Wax.
Just two brief things. First is to council boundaries. 2 years from now, we're going to have reapportionment. Yeah. And they're just going to be dramatically different from now, and by the time these facilities are built, the districts will be totally different. The issue is whether all people are being served right, irrespective of whatever the council boundary may be. The issue is service to people and a fair and equal service and equal response times and things of that nature to people, whatever district they may happen to fit in. The issue, Ms. Chick, I'm glad you asked. I must express my frustration right now. I thought I asked a relatively simple question, and it started in committee. And I wanted to make sure that the project, that the management costs not be excessive. I think we have to learn from the bad lesson of Belmont, where it was revealed that the overall management costs were 19%. And that didn't even include the LAUSD staff cost, which was way beyond industry standards and was a huge amount of unnecessary expenditure and money down the drain. I was concerned that our management costs not have the same problem. And the staff laid out for me a comparative chart, and that when you put the program management cost, the project management cost, and the construction management cost together, instead of the 19.1 that was at Belmont, ours is only 12.1. In addition to that, ours includes our city staff costs, whereas the Belmont did not include the LAUSD staff costs. So ours is almost half, based upon what they presented us, of what theirs was. And that made me feel very good. I asked if the mayor's office would review that. Ms. Chick, I didn't really even ask the mayor's office to tell me whether they're for or against the bond issue. That's a political judgment they can make any time. All I wanted was, would you review the numbers that were given to us, which I'm holding here? Are these, in your opinion, are these accurate? So that I have accurate information in making my judgment. Didn't get it. Then it came to council. We didn't have it. We continued to Friday. Still didn't get it. Now we're continuing it again to today. It's more than 2 weeks to simply ask whether they've made an analysis of, in their opinion, are these numbers accurate or not. And I mean, we've just gone through this whole battle of how much authority to give somebody for the fiscal oversight of a city, and I can't understand why it takes 2 weeks to not even get an opinion of whether we've looked at these numbers. Are they not, in our opinion, accurate? I don't understand that at all, and I'm very frustrated by it. I think that we owe that. That's a question was asked in good faith, did not even want to ask whether they support it or not. That's their business. But I do want that analysis to make sure that these numbers are accurate, because it involves a lot of money, and it involves whether or not we're giving people the best value for their dollar, whether we're operating as efficiently as possible. And I think it was a very fair question to ask for that analysis. And to my regret, Ms. Chick, I have still not gotten an answer.
Ms. Goldberg.
First, let me make it very clear. I am not the least bit concerned about what council district anything is in. What I am concerned about is that there are several parts of the city which have the highest density, the most deaths from fire, and the most number of calls And that those areas, whether you look on which side of the line they're in, are primarily not covered in this bond issue. I'm not saying are not covered at all, but are primarily not covered in this bond issue. That's the point I'm trying to make. I don't really care one way or the other whether it's in my district or not. I don't have any high schools in my district. It doesn't mean students from my district don't go to high school. They go to high school across the boundary in someone else's district. I don't care if the fire station that comes into my district is across the street from my district. But if you take a look in the area around Pico and Union, around Temple and Beverly, where we have large structure fires, where we have the deaths, you don't see anything here. And we're spending money on these regional training centers when we still have a crisis in some parts of the city. We have one fire station that was torn down not torn down, but has not been replaced in this area. It's not in my district, it's adjacent to my district, but it served my district. It's not on the list to be replaced here, and it wasn't replaced in the past, so it's just not going to be replaced at all. My concern is a very simple one. As we try to get bond issues passed that take 2/3 votes, that we end up starting to think in terms of how to get it passed and not where the needs are. And that's all I'm trying to raise here. And I think we are still doing that. Not entirely, but to a large enough extent that it gives me pause and it makes me worried. And I think that is something that the interesting thing is, my constituents vote for all the bonds. Every single time. You take a look at the statistics, we not only vote for them, we vote for them overwhelmingly. And it doesn't matter whether it's a library bond, a fire bond, the last police bond won in my district. Okay? There was no Rampart Station replacement in the bond, but it won in my district. Now, these are folks committed to public safety in all of its forms, and all I'm trying to say is where you have high density and where you have virtually, I believe, all of the deaths in recent years due to fire, it does seem a bit odd, I don't care what district they're in, that somehow or another that has not been adequately addressed. And that's the point I'm trying to make, and I won't speak anymore. I've said it enough.
Mr. Hernandez.
Members of the council, I think it's well, it's disappointing to hear so many of you talk about council boundaries. Quite frankly, I've heard you talk about your council boundaries and how protective you are of basically trying to make sure your district gets the same service I'm trying to make sure constituents who basically have been denied services in the past get today. I don't care about council boundaries. I'm asking the same kinds of questions Ms. Goldberg is asking, and that's what's insulting in this debate when we talk about public safety. I'm sure many of you have had to work with your fire stations in trying to get MTA to lease a month-to-month lease and then get the street maintenance to pave it and then get general services to put up a wall because there's no budget for it. Trying to use block grant to redo kitchens. Trying to get block grants to redo the doors so that they open more efficiently in our fire stations. I mean, at the Frank Hodgkins, trying to get the Department of Water and Power to basically provide the water hookup to the main drain because there's no money in the fire department to do that as part of their training facility when you talk about the fire hydrant on the upper level that was created. When we deal with the fire department, we're piecemealing these things. And why it is that we can propose a bond measure that ignores a part of the city, and when I talk about ignores a part of the city that has a part that has the same needs everybody else does, but if anything is losing lives to fire. If anything has the oldest facilities in the city because it was the first part of the city. Why it is that we can ignore it in this bond issuance is what's mystifying to me. What's mystifying. And it's no secret that I've been advocating for the Frank Hodgkins system center because I thought it was a more efficient system. I thought it would allow for resources to be spread out citywide. And then to hear it didn't make the cut when I was advocating for it before the cut, when I advocated it at the committee, and I'm advocating it for today. And people are asking why I can't support this. Maybe I have a misconception of what we're supposed to be doing as public policy makers when we talk about citywide issues. I just don't see us addressing them on this bond issuance. And I don't think we're being honest to the public when we say we are. And that's why I'm taking the position I'm taking. I'm sorry, I don't see consensus on this one.
Well, obviously not. Mr. Fuhr.
Move the question.
All right. All right. We have, well, Mr. Holden wants to speak for a second time. Mrs. Chick wants to speak for a third time.
I
So-
think Ms. Chick wants an amendment. I'll withdraw the motion.
All right, the motion is withdrawn. Mr. Holden is next.
Mr. President, Madam President, members, I think the bottom line, and I have some concerns about where do we go from here. But I would say to you that you need almost unanimous vote for the members of the council in order to come close to convincing two-thirds of the voters that this is a good idea. If you don't have that, there's no point in going forward. I mean, we fortunately have a day left tomorrow. There's strong opposition from Mr. Hernandez, somewhat milder strong from Ms. Goldberg, and I'm on the fence. You can push me one side or the other on this one.
May I address?
You can push me. So what I'm saying to you is that I'm inclined really to vote for it, but this is what you're going to need. It's a city vote, citywide, and we are talking about what we've seen over the years about why votes go one way and another way as relates to their respective districts, and why you want to court one side of town as opposed to not courting another where the need is more intense, so to speak. But nevertheless, it reminded me of the time we were going to put in the Metro Rail. And where did you put it? This district, that district. My position was just dig a hole and get started. And where it ends up, it'll end up. At least we'll have something in the ground. And now we do have that. That's right, got it in your district, that's right. Just dig a hole. Let's get started. And so, for that reason, you may want to just hold this over tomorrow and not fight with anybody today. Talk to the individuals and try and get them at a time certain on the agenda, Madam Chair, and just have a vote. But you're going to need a vote. It's got to be pretty much unanimous, I think.
I think we're going to try to get to a vote today. They've
We're not
already
gonna get a
tried.
unanimous vote
Well, they've
today.
already tried to answer the questions, and they obviously have not fully
You
satisfied.
want to go for a unanimous vote today? Yes or
You're
no?
not going to get a unanimous vote. We
I
already know
don't
that.
expect a unanimous vote. I don't think a day is going to change anyone's mind. I just want to reiterate the reason on the Hotchkiss, if I may. The idea of this bond proposal as put forth is to get regional
Well, maybe you ought to do it on his time.
firefighting
I'm going to
facilities,
close. Are you going to hold it?
regional firefighter facilities before the voters. We did not want to put a citywide facility for recruit training before the voters. That's too much an issue in some parts of the town right now to put a citywide facility on the ballot. Again, we have recruit training going on now. It is not an unmet need. It would be nice when we could put it at the training center, but right now we need more desperately in order to provide better everyday fire service to get the fire stations built. One last thing, regional fire stations, there may be misconception here. They are not just training centers. They are fully operating fire stations.
Well, in closing, if you have a fire station in those other districts like Fire Station 94, they need to be replaced. And it serves both Mark's district and mine. And if the need is for other areas, fine. Public safety is number one, fire and police. And for that reason, I don't want anybody to burn anywhere. And if we can get a quicker response time with that which you're proposing, then I think for that reason, I'm going to vote for it. I wanted to force you to put it over to tomorrow to try and talk to my colleagues, and I think it's a mistake if you don't do that.
All right, Mrs. Chick, round three. Mrs. Chick?
I believe, Mr. Fuhr, you made an amendment about if there were other work that was to be done, it would go further down on the priority list.
If there's more money.
If there's more money. Okay, well, I want to second that, but I specifically and more generically would like to apply, and I forget the number of my item that's been grouped with these. Is it 48? Colleagues, if this bill is put on the ballot, this bond, that we include a list of the projects to be done, that we create an oversight committee that reports on a regular and I would say frequent, so it should be at least quarterly, make public reports on the expenditures, and that on the listing of projects that we specify if funds are freed up or available, that we go further down on the list of priorities in order of priority.
You have to push the button so you
Oh,
can.
sorry. Just
Go ahead.
for 5 seconds, I just want to say that it's been suggested to me by General Services that I not only say if there's additional funding left over from the principal, but also from the interest that could be attributed to the next project's dam, and so I'll just amend that to say that.
All right, and that's no, let's try to get this down to where we can actually vote on something here. That's an amendment to the item as listed in the agenda. So let's first vote on the amendment, which would add what is actually contained in item 48, even though we haven't yet adopted 48, and would adopt Mr. Feuer's amendment. Open the roll on the amendment. Oh, Mrs. Walters, not yet. Go ahead.
Restate the amendment, and is the amendment Ms. Chick's amendment?
Yes, I'll do my
Okay,
best.
would you
Hold on.
restate it, please?
Actually, the quickest way to do it is to look at item 48 on today's agenda, which says that for each bond issue, we will list the projects it's meant to cover, and that we will establish an oversight committee, and she's said verbally that she wants it to meet quarterly. And then Mr. Feuer's amendment to that amendment was that if there is any money freed up from either principal or interest, that we would move to the fire department's next set of priorities.
Right. Actually, Ms. Glanter, I had an amendment earlier that had that
you were
as one of
handing
about
out.
5 different components to it.
Yes, which I have.
Which I orally stated
Yes, you
and showed
did,
the city
and I-
clerk.
Okay. Well, let's take that can we take that one separately? Let's take this last set of amendments, which is Mrs. Chick's. Oh, good point. Is the fire department, have you seen Mr. Feuer's list? And are you guys comfortable with that?
Yes, we are.
And how about the amendments that were just,
Yes, we're aware of them.
I have
Very
a
comfortable.
point of information.
Ms. Goldberg?
Since I have no idea what's on the list, can we say we'll take the next in priority, whether it's on a list or not? Since the list was drawn up in
Yes,
part.
I think that was the thrust of,
The point is that the next highest priority after the first one.
actually, he didn't say list, he said
Okay,
priority.
if you leave out the word list, I can support your amendment.
All right,
Because
but-
I don't know what's on the list.
No,
and
no,
I don't
no.
wanna-
I
Before
think
any-
you're safe because Mr. Feuer, when he stated it, actually said the next in order of priority.
Okay.
No other
That's fine.
projects will go forward until the council approves and the mayor approves which ones they are.
Okay, now, yes, ma'am.
Yes. Was this not also, I guess, one issue was held on the desk, and that was in response to specifically Mr. Wax's request on fiscal
Well,
numbers?
he asked the mayor's office to provide some information, which, as he reminded us this morning, they have not. They have apparently chosen not to do. So,
Has the CAO had the numbers signed off by the mayor?
I wouldn't say it that way, no.
Okay.
go ahead.
In public safety, when we had the mayor's staff there, mayor information was that staff from the mayor had been working with the working group in the CAO-CLA. They were recommending something to the mayor. The mayor had not officially recommended that his staff to be here, but in terms of involvement, impression, particularly on the issue that Mr. Wax had asked about, which is financial part of it rather than priority part of it, the mayor's budget team was working very closely with the working group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we ready?
I
Yes?
just are we separating the question of the bond issuance?
I'm
with the two
attempting to
departments?
do that, but I'm having trouble getting that far. The first vote I hope, is going to be on Ms. Chick's amendment that says, in the event we put this on the ballot, we will have an oversight committee and we will have the projects listed in the ballot. As amended by Mr. Feuer's addition, that should there be any money left over, that it will be used for the next priorities in order of priority. So let's vote on that, and then we'll vote on Mr. Feuer's other package of amendments, and then we'll vote on whether to put it on the ballot. Okay? We're going to vote on each. We're going to vote on each of those three things separately. All right, so first we're voting on the last two amendments. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, those are approved. Now, we have Mr. Feuer's amendments that he stated earlier, which I confess I cannot repeat.
They're amendments designed to expedite the process, getting the oversight committees to begin meeting, getting the general managers to designate their liaison staff to the programs, start the RFQ process, get the architects on board, and begin acquisition of the parcels ASAP, so we can actually be doing this as rapidly as possible should the bond pass.
Okay, open the roll on that set of amendments. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, those are approved. Now, we come to grand climax. Then we have to do this all over again on animal services facilities. Shall we indeed move forward with item 44 as amended by the two sets of amendments that we just did? And this is the instruction, Mr. Mercer.
One other issue, Madam President. This would have, if you vote to approve the report as amended, you would combine the animal services with the fire, so you should be aware of that and
All
decide what you
right,
want.
so is there anybody who has an objection to that? Mr. Hernandez wants to separate them. Okay, so, oh goody, we can do this all over again. So what we need to do then is is there any problem with our voting on them separately?
No, at this point, 44 is only the fire, 45 is the
That's
animal
correct. So we're-
services.
no, we're
But
just voting-
44 also includes a recommendation that they be combined on the ballot. You could adopt everything except that and come back
Let's
later and
adopt
decide
everything
whatever you want.
except
Item
that.
3 on the report.
We are deleting item 3, which says combine, okay? As listed in the agenda. Open the roll on everything except item 3. On everything as amended, on item 44 as amended, but except for paragraph 3. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 2 noes.
All right, that is approved. Now, we have to hold that item 3 till we take the next item, which is item 45.
Thank you.
Which was also called special by Ms. Goldberg, I believe. Okay, item 45 is before us. Now, is this from the previous one? Okay, Ms. Chick, were you, this? Okay, Jackie, you go first. Wait, your mic's not on. Let's get the mic on. And could you hit the speaker button?
Yeah, I did. Goes to the fact that I can't make all of the paperwork fit, so maybe that will help me. I have a June 27th report to the mayor from Mr. Fujioka, Deaton, and Troyan, and it has options 1 all the way through 3B, and then the sheet that gave me the further information talks about option 4, and I'd like to know what on the June 27th is option 4. Is it 3A or 3B that became number 4? Or is it something different?
Larry Stern, Office of Administrative Research Services, we released, our office along with the CLA, a supplemental report on July 5th at the
Well,
request.
that's probably one I never saw.
Well, copies were delivered to each of the council offices, and we can give you one right now.
Well, could
Option
you-
4
can-
basically is option 3A.
Okay.
Which then is expanded to include 2 additional facilities, one in
Okay.
South Central and in East Valley.
Well, 3A already had South Central.
That was a renovation to the,
Okay, and so what have you added to South Central? And to make it 4?
an additional facility, full service animal
A
shelter.
new facility in
That would
South
be on-
Central?
That would, the preferred site there would be the 77th Street police station site on St. Andrews.
Is it an expansion or a new facility?
That would be a new facility.
Okay. And the other one was in the East Valley, was a new facility?
Yes, Councilman.
Now, you have one already, East Valley number 1, so
That's a
this would be East Valley number 2?
That is correct.
Okay, so it's East Valley number 2, and would be then South Central number 2?
That is correct.
Okay, that was formerly in Phase 2,
Yes.
and that now goes into Phase 1, and there is only one phase.
Only one phase recommended for funding on this ballot measure. We would come back in 5 years.
Right, no,
to
but I just
revisit.
want to understand it. So we're now talking about what is listed as in 2005, 2010 Phase 2. The East Valley number 2 and the South Central number 2 move up into Phase 1. And with the 6 items that are already there under 3A, that's all of the sum total. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, I did want to note that in the 1 through 6, budget, you've got about $30 million in the West Valley. Oh, I see. Okay. Let me come back to this in just a minute. I have to recalculate.
Mrs. Chick.
Yes, similar question to the one I asked about fire facilities in terms of ongoing maintenance and staffing costs that upon completion of the facilities would be coming from the general fund, not from the bond. If we could have a discussion of that, and if there are to be significant ongoing costs, when would they start? I think the information that I'm aware of is there's a figure 11 million that starts in about 5 years, if I have that correct, but it's partly why I'm asking the question now. And I guess I'm feeling that there needs to be a discussion somewhere in what we put before the public that informs them that this is another cost, a related cost. I think it's the most honest way to go. I certainly have been saying enough times, and maybe more about animal services even than the fire department, about how we have not been tending to the needs of this very important public safety quality of life department. So for the same reasons that I wanted to support the fire bond and was able to do that, I want to hear discussions about these ongoing needs. And then I believe last time you said this was a 5 to 7 year timeline, just to confirm that. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Ray Serrano, Office ORS. Yes, at the end of...
And with your name because the mic didn't go on.
Ray Serrano.
Go ahead, thank you.
ORS. At the end of 5 to 7 years, the actual impact on the general fund is approximately 11 million, and that includes the operating budget of the department, plus related costs, and any possible maintenance costs for the new facilities. It actually will increase as we add new staff and shelters come online as they open up. So it actually will ramp up over the period of the 5 to 7 years. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Goldberg is next.
Good.
So in this bond issue of, what's the total then? For animal reg?
$154.1 million.
154.1. You're going to spend 13 million on renovating North Central, which will move it from 73 kennels to 223 kennels. Is that correct?
It would be.
That is correct.
Okay. So, and so the existing facility stays and you're just going to add? Is that what you're going to do?
That is correct. It would be a major renovation and expansion because we have the facilities on site. But more than that, it would also change the entire tenor of the facility to be a much more user-friendly type facility that the department and the community has been asking for.
And West LA will go from 26 to 101, but it's not a renovation, it's a replacement.
That is correct, a totally new facility.
But why the big ticket? It's $34.5 million. Why is that so much more than everybody else. You're going to build a whole new South Central one for 26 and East Valley one for 28.5. Why is this several $1 million more?
Land acquisition.
So just the cost of okay. So it's that much different. And in the West Valley, it's a renovation. North Central, it's a renovation. South Central 1 is a renovation. And the new ones will be East Valley 1 and 2, West LA 1, Harbor, and South Central 2. Do I have it right?
Yes, it is, and again, the renovations are renovations, expansions to a totally different type of a facility.
On your map, I don't see East Valley 2. So could you just tell me where it's going to be? I've got one that I can see, but I can't find the other one.
On East Valley? No. The department has the...
Oh, that's much bigger than my little map, maybe I...
Councilmember Goldberg, we can speak to that. Dan Knapp, General Manager, Animal Services. The second facility is projected to be where Linda Gordon is pointing here, up in the Pacoima area of Council District
Okay.
7.
That's good. And could you show me South Central 1, 2, and Annex? 1, 2, where's the Annex? Oh, it's next to 1. That's why I couldn't find a third one. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Fuhr.
I rose for two purposes. The first is to move the same set of amendments without recapitulating all of them that we did the last time. And the second was to ask, and I'm not sure if this is the appropriate moment, I'm not sure otherwise when it would be, that we direct the city attorney, should this also pass, to prepare two alternative approaches for the ballot. One would have these two measures be separate from each other, and the other that they be combined. So when we come to the decision whether to place these on the ballot, which is not what we're doing today, we have those choices before us.
Okay, Mrs. Chick. Let me just, before I start your time, you're moving all of the amendments, the ones that were on your list plus the ones we added at the end. Okay.
And he's and I'll second it. Yeah. Just, have we done that in the past, in the history of the city going out on bonds where we have forthrightly disclosed and discussed general fund, related ongoing costs? I want the bond to pass. I know we desperately need these facilities. The city needs them. But, and I think it's important for the public to know what we're doing. We're making a commitment in passing this to increase a major obligation in our general fund. I'm ready to make that commitment. I believe we've needed to do that for a long time. But I'm asking both staff, and I'm putting it out for discussion to my colleagues, whether we want to look to make it a practice to discuss those kinds of related costs in some form in the language that goes on the ballot.
What is before the voters is required to include a statement on the impact, and so that we have in the past had the statement that the general fund will be affected like this.
Great, then I don't need to make a motion to that effect. It's an automatic. Okay, thank you.
And we did
Mr.
that for
Ridley
the,
Thomas.
Madam President, members of the council, this is as important to public safety as anything else we can do. Additionally, it contributes substantially, in a potential way that is, to the improvement in the quality of life for residents throughout the city of Los Angeles. The Animal Services Department, along with the other support departments, have worked very hard to bring some semblance of sanity to the problems related to the issue of pet overpopulation, which has far-reaching implications for the quality of interaction between city personnel and the animals, as well as a whole range of things that we have come to appreciate as a result of their presentations. I should think we would be well within the bounds of responsibility to move forward with this bond measure, and I simply rise to express my support of the same.
There being no further speakers, open the roll on item 45 as amended by all those amendments. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. So we'll yes.
Item 44, that number 3 about combining.
Yes, and actually, Mr. Fuhr just moved that we get two different versions so that we can take that up. So we're going to continue paragraph 3 from item 44 to August 4th when all this stuff comes back. Okay, that brings us, I believe, to item 46, called special by Mr. Savornich, and apparently the chief is not going to be able to join us, so if you... Oh, all right. Well, in that case, item 46 is before us. What? We're coming to yours for the... I know. Okay. All right. Mr. Fuhr on item 46?
Yeah. On item 46, the first thing I want to say is that I think it's okay for us today to give the instruction to draft it, but of course that does not say that we're giving the instruction to put it on the ballot. And one of the things that has troubled me, especially in recent days, but throughout much of the negotiations process, culminating recently, is that I think there's a feeling on both sides that there is, at moments, a lack of good faith, a feeling of reneging on commitments, back and forth. I've certainly heard a lot of discussion in my office about that, and I think we can do better. And what I hope is that by not prejudging whether to put this on the ballot in November, but merely preserving our option to do it, that between now and the date that we actually have to make that decision, the parties here can come to a better place. Because right now, it's not a good place. And every few days, there's a new blow-up over something and things have to be brought back down to earth. And this happened as recently as Saturday. It's got to stop. I think for this negotiation to culminate successfully and for us to really have a strong working relationship that's much better than it currently is between rank and file and management of the police department, we have to be able to have everybody trust each other. And so what I hope happens is the city attorney preserves our options to put on the ballot. We give that instruction. We don't prejudge whether it goes on the ballot today. We reserve that for a later date. And in the meantime, there's a good opportunity for some meaningful getting to yes, if not always on the content, at least restoring confidence in the process, which I think has been flagging, especially recently.
Mr. Savornich.
I would have to rise to disagree. This is an issue that had an opportunity during the charter reform process to go before the voters of this city. And what happened then, which is now trying to be accomplished, is that this was rejected, being put before the voters at that time. And so now we have a second attempt to bring this before the voters of this city, not even within a year and a half of the charter, well, not even that, not within 6 months of the new charter being implemented. So I would think that if there was a broad base of support in regards to addressing this issue, it should have been addressed in the charter vote rather than now having to bring this forward later. I was not a supporter of the charter, and I most certainly would not have been a supporter of this being as part of the charter. I would think that two charter commissions, both the elected and the appointed, neither one of them mustered enough votes to put this before the voters. And so at this time, I think that if we go ahead and even instruct the city attorney to draft the ordinances, that we're possibly bringing some false sense of hope that this is going to be going forward. I would ask for a no vote to the drafting of the ordinances, and let's just end this here and now.
Ms. Goldberg.
Yeah, I just want to mention that I think that it is extremely unfortunate that language was changed after negotiations had ended, and that isn't a way to inspire confidence. But negotiations did end, and what I want to know is what's before us. Is it the original language or is it the changed language? Because if it's the original language, I will support it. because that was what was bargained in good faith on both sides. So can someone tell me if we're talking about the original language?
This should be essentially a yes or no question.
That should be a yes or
Oh,
no
it's not
question.
quite yes or no. Is it the original language? Yes or no?
It's the changed language.
It's the changed language. After we agree on language, why do we change it?
City Attorney's Office made a recommendation for a change. That's what the reason we met on Saturday with the union and worked out that they believe we fulfilled our obligations to meet and confer, even though they still would like to discuss further changes.
But see, this is where we undo our, well, we fight against ourselves. And when we start fighting against ourselves, that's crazy. I mean, we had a deal, didn't we? Didn't we have agreement? And that agreement, because this is sensitive stuff. I mean, we're not talking about things that are easy to attain. This is sensitive stuff. We had agreement on the precise language, didn't we?
Or how do you want to? I think the league would have to answer that as to whether they believe we have an agreement.
Well, that was my impression as one member of EERC, and I'd be interested to hear from everybody else that was at EERC. But it seemed to me like we had agreed on specific language. And that's the problem, is if that's the case, then to change it now, when we could go into an election with this on the ballot with the league supporting it, which to my way of thinking is the only way it's probably going to pass, then that's what we got to be doing. Even if it isn't 100% of what we want, it's close enough, and it's a major step. And when we try, I think, to get perfection after we have agreement, because you don't get perfection in these things. When you try to get perfection, you sometimes end up making it impossible to get the ally that you need to get this passed on the ballot to stay with you.
Can I make a
think that's a
suggestion?
problem.
We're still on your time. I'll hold
Yes,
it.
you may.
My suggestion is that since what we're instructing, if we don't act today or tomorrow to instruct them, we can't make the decision we have to make, which is the actual decision is not today, it's on August 4th. And given that the city attorney seems to have been the impetus for changing language, I think we might want to hear from the city attorney,
Okay.
which would suggest that we have to do the first step and hear from the city attorney before we do the second step.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
is it too much of an imposition to ask that whatever language is being discussed, that everybody get a copy of it?
That's a good idea.
I don't think so, but it looks like the city attorney wants to respond now. Mr. Echeverria?
If I may. My understanding, and it was Mr. Merkin who prepared the actual language. The language that's proposed, and which was contained in the...
Does that mean we don't get a copy?
In the report.
Maybe we can work both of these things simultaneously.
It was transmitted to council in the report that we sent. I believe it went to all council members, but I'll make more copies and get them available to you. I apologize if you didn't get them. But my understanding of the language that Mr. Merkin prepared is that it was the language that had been agreed to with the league. It's changed in the sense that it's not the original charter language. It is the language, my understanding is, that was agreed to with the league. If there was no agreement, then there was no agreement. But that was the language that at least was discussed with the members of the league.
All right, so now we need to go back to the OR's office, and Royce, you said it was different language.
It was different in where it was going to be located. It was not different in substance. The issue was where the language was going to be placed. Was it going to be placed in the charter itself or in a supplemental document?
CLA.
And where did we agree in negotiations that it was going to be placed?
Well, if we go with what happened on Saturday, the way it's in front of you.
No, she's asking about earlier.
If we're going back to the last time it was discussed at EERC, then it was in the charter.
Uh-huh. And so you're saying that you met on Saturday and everybody's now happy with the new language?
No, they said that we fulfilled our obligation to meet and confer. They didn't say we're happy.
Okay. But wasn't part of the EERC process to try to get to agreement so that we could get the support of the league when this went on the ballot? Go on.
That was an effort. We tried to get there, yes.
And you're saying that the changes are not particularly substantive.
Correct.
Then why don't we go back to the other way where we can end up having their support and this thing might actually get passed?
Okay, wait, before you answer that, let's go to the CLA. Jerry?
Jerry
Jerry Miller with the CLA. What I would suggest, unfortunately, neither Mr. Merkin nor Mr. McCosker are available today, but we do have the deadline for the instruction. All of those questions, obviously, we all need answers to, and no one has those answers yet, so I think they need to answer them directly. What I would suggest is to give the instruction today and then continue this discussion until next Wednesday, which would then give an opportunity for Mr. Merkin and Mr. McCosker to be here and directly answer why, from a legal standpoint, they made the recommendations that the language had to be moved.
Well, my suggestion would be that our instructions be that we have it drawn up both ways. That we have it drawn up as we agreed to it and in EERC with the league, and to have it drawn up with the proposed changes. And then, frankly, if you can't convince me, see, by hearing that they aren't substantive changes, it seems to me that there's no reason for us to fight over it. But rather than have that fight now,
Well,
I'd like
we
to
have
move
5
that
more
we get both versions.
Okay, so we now have, a motion to have item 46 drafted, both with the original language and with whatever you guys have got now. Ms. Mizakowski is next.
I agree, and I think that Ms. Goldberg indicated an awful lot of things in the direction I was going, and that is that there had been instruction in the ERC, and there had been agreement. And I think even if it's technical, even if it's considered minor, it's obviously not considered minor by some of those who are involved in this. And just as much as we should hold everyone to an agreement, to a bargain that was struck, we should hold ourselves to that same bargain. And I am not persuaded that, as I'm understanding now, that there's really no change in language. It's where the language is that has impact, consideration, and/or concern as it's being expressed by any side. But inasmuch as that was not part of what was put forward, and inasmuch as it is now creating further conflict, confusion, or controversy, that we ourselves adhere to that was put forward, which was that language change where the language was going to be changed. And I think, although I have no objection to having 2 issues drafted, it seems to me that the wisdom and the right decision and discussion is those changes that absolutely adhere to what the bargain was that was struck. And that's fair, that's how we're supposed to bargain. And within that framework, there may be changes that will come in the future. We may be looking at this again after we see if the independent panels work and after the council deals with it. But for the purposes of this effort to get on the ballot consistent with what the bargain that was struck, I think we should not change it, even if the city attorney says it's better one place than another. Leave it in the less better place if that's where the agreement was. And that would be my recommendation, which I think is consistent with what Councilmember Goldberg said and Councilmember Fuhrer.
Ms. Chick.
I think the solution offered by my colleagues is the way we need to go, and when this comes back, if there are still disagreements, then whether it's in closed session or an open session, I, for one, would appreciate a much more in-depth discussion about what the differences are and how this occurred, et cetera. I'd much prefer not even having the discussion, and by the time you come back, find out that we have a consensus again. That was a very good piece of news when we all thought we had one, and I'm sorry to hear that it's fallen apart.
Mrs. Walters. Okay. Mr. Burnson.
Yes, members of the council, I think there was an agreement that was reached, and then apparently there was an attempt to try to change that agreement. Now, I don't think that's negotiating in good faith, to be very honest with you. Now you're asking us to go ahead and qualify for this, for the ballot, even though there has not been a sign-off on the part of the league on this thing. Let's be fair about this, and let's try to, if we're going to negotiate and make agreements, let's keep them. I mean, my feeling is this, that if we don't have consensus, then maybe what's the rush of rushing into this thing just to qualify it for the next ballot? I don't think there's any urgency. This is a charter change, basically, and I think we need to be very careful about making charter changes that may not have the impact that we like. I mean, we as a council should learn that, I think, and should have learned that. But I would suggest if we're going to take any kind of vote today, to move forward, that we vote individually on the settlement agreement that was agreed upon, and upon, no, we haven't agreed to do that as far as putting it on the ballot is concerned. So, as far as qualifying for the ballot.
This is what we are adopting today. Whatever we adopt does not put it on the ballot. This only instructs
I
you to draft
understand.
it. So at the point, and the recommendation is to draft two, so that at the point that we have to make the decision whether to put
Well,
something on the
what I'm
ballot, you'll be
suggesting
able to
is,
do what you're doing.
what I'm suggesting, Madam President, is that we vote individually on which ones we want to draft. And then, under those circumstances, because if we are going to draft two and not adhere to our agreement, then I can't support this today.
Okay. Mr. Pacheco.
Madam President and colleagues, I agree with Councilmember Bernstein in terms of why is it so urgent that we do it in November. But also, more importantly, in terms of our role as the council, I'm not sure how this works in terms of the negotiated relationships between our employees and the bargaining units, because the last time we had this, we had a similar situation where we were talking about employee benefits, and it was regarding domestic partners and the fire department and this whole negotiated agreement, and the council stepped in and took it one step further as the final decision maker in terms of the policies for the city. So I'm not sure what our role is in this, in terms of this settlement, but for me it's very clear that handing me something to read and digest 10 minutes ago, especially as with all the legal changes that I see in this document, and especially with the arguments made earlier by Councilmember Savornich about both commissions had an opportunity to review this and rejected it, makes it really difficult for me to vote in favor of this. But if the vote today is simply to open up the opportunity to discuss this, then I may be inclined to vote in that direction. But really, at this point, it seems we've been put in a very awkward situation because of some changes that recently have developed. So I'm not sure how I'm going to vote on it, but I just wanted to ask if there was really an urgency that we do it by November for any real particular reason.
Somebody want to answer that?
Well, again, I think it would be helpful for next week to have Mr. Merkin and Mr. McCosker here to discuss that. It is my understanding that the police department and the city attorney do feel strongly that it's important that this go in November rather than waiting until next April.
Well, let me suggest, here's the problem. I mean, you're right that this is to open up the discussion. If we decide, if we wait past tomorrow, we can't decide. We no longer have the option to decide to put it on in November after we find out from the city attorney or anybody else why they think it's important. If we vote to instruct, we still have the option to not put it on in November. That's the issue that's essentially before us today. But I have two more speakers, unless somebody wants to finish saying why it's important to go in November.
I think that between November and April, you're going to have any number of disciplinary actions, perhaps as many as 100 to 150. It is arguable that, and I don't know how the law would come out, but it's arguable that any change in November after the effective date would apply to those. We have, as you know, ongoing discussions with the Department of Justice about, various aspects of the police department's issues. We have a number of public policy issues at stake. It would seem to me that the council would at least want to preserve the option of putting something on the November ballot.
And in order to preserve the option, we need to vote to instruct you
today.
to draft it, even if we later don't adopt it. Okay, Mr. Wax is next. Well, wait, hold on. Mr. Pacheco, were you done? You actually have another minute if you need it.
I heard the response that people were passionately supporting the police department, city attorneys, but they didn't answer why they were being so passionate or so adamant that it be in November. But if that's the best we can get for today, then I guess I have no other questions.
All right, Mr. Wax. I'm sorry.
Actually, I wasn't going to speak until Mr. Mars mentioned something about ongoing discussion with the Justice Department. And is this one, is the subject of this charter amendment one of the subjects of negotiation in the...
I do not believe that the Justice Department discussions are involved in charter changes. However,
No, I just heard you say something that said ongoing negotiations with the Justice Department as one of the, relating it to why we should do it in November, and I want to know what the relationship, why you said what you said.
Sure. I can tell you I believe that the department's efforts and the league's efforts in these charter changes would make would do a number of things, including make the statute of limitations conform more to state law, provide an opportunity to file against officers who otherwise might be time barred, to preserve the option to deal with the merits of disciplinary actions rather than technicalities, such as the double jeopardy issue. In other words, what the guts of these changes are to cause disciplinary actions to be based more on merits and less on more technical rules.
True, but if that's part of a broader discussion of discipline, which is part of a broader discussion of what's being now negotiated by 4 people, and to the rest of us not knowing, I'm almost more comfortable considering it all as one package when that comes to us than to start taking bits and pieces of something that's not yet before us and is obviously going to be of paramount importance.
No, I didn't mean to imply that, Mr. Wax.
That was what I sort of read out of that.
Round 2, Mr. Savornich.
I think we need to face the facts. What this is an attempt at another second bite at the apple in regards to this issue before the voters. Again, as I previously articulated, this failed before the 2 charter commissions, and now we're trying to come back in November to try to get this on the ballot before the voters. The question that I have is, what is the substantive difference in the language that was agreed to versus now what is, I guess now there's 2 versions, the changed version versus the previous version, and there's been some talk about where that language is placed. How does that change what the council is going to have to consider? Because what we have to vote on today is, even though this might come back next week, is whether even to instruct the city attorney to draft both of them. So what's the substantive difference?
The difference, Councilman, is the term double jeopardy and how it's defined. There was language specifically agreed to by EERC that was negotiated. The city attorney believes that language should be in an implementation agreement and not in the city charter, but it's the same language word for word in an implementation agreement, not in the city charter itself. They believe that has legal significance in how we defend our disciplinary actions that have patterns of conduct and other areas that double jeopardy has been used as a challenge.
Is that what the EERC agreed to?
EERC agreed to the language, not to where it was at.
Okay, so now who is making the recommendation on to where it's at?
City attorney.
So the city attorney's opinion would take precedence over what the EERC is recommending to this council?
What was agreed to with the EERC was subject to the review of the city attorney's office as to form and appropriate merit, etc. The city attorneys looked at it, made a recommendation that language be moved from the charter to an implementation agreement.
But the EERC hasn't agreed to and or has considered the movement of that language to where the city attorney suggests. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so what this council is going to have to vote on is whether or not the council agrees with the city attorney's opinion on where that language goes, since what we have before us is an EERC recommendation which has been modified by the city attorney.
But not modified with respect to the language? Only with
the placement of.
The placement.
Right.
Okay.
Correct?
So the language is the language that was agreed to? No?
Correct.
Wait till your mic gets on.
What you have before you is whether or not you instruct us to go ahead and prepare the language and bring it back to you. There is draft language here, which is not the actual language which will be presented to you, and when we finalize it, we'll give you both versions as has been suggested. But today it's just whether you instruct us or not to prepare the language.
No, he knows that. What he's trying to ask you is, try it again.
Okay. What I'm saying is that what the EERC agreed to is different from what is before the council today, only because in the interim, the city attorney took a look at what the EERC had agreed to and said that the language should be in a different position, in a different spot.
Correct.
And so the EERC has never agreed to that change by the city attorney. It is now up to the council to make the determination that, yes, we agree with the city attorney's recommendation of placing that language someplace else that what the EERC had agreed to.
It is ultimately always up to the council on the circumstances.
Well,
Correct, I understand,
but I'm trying to be helpful here. What Commander Doan said is that what the EERC agreed to was the language subject to review and approval by the city attorney. With the review and approval by the city attorney came a recommendation for the language, but in a different format.
Correct.
And so it is the city attorney's recommendation for how to implement the language the EERC recommended that is before us. Have I got that straight?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Now, and just in my few seconds that is left, Councilwoman Goldberg, what you have recommended is that both languages be considered today for drafting in order that when it does come back next week, we can choose one over the other, correct? The one language that the EERC did consider and the PPL agreed to versus the language that the EERC has not yet acted on, but the city attorney modified that the PPL does not agree with.
No, Rudy, it's the same language, unless I've got this wrong. It's the same language.
Ruth, I agree, it's the same
in a
language,
different
just the
place.
placement of the language.
Okay.
That's correct.
So the disagreement, if there is disagreement, is over where the language should be.
Correct.
How the language should be implemented, not over the language itself.
And I apologize that I cannot address to you the merits of one placement versus the other. Mr. Merkin
Well,
gave that advice.
believe me,
and
by
he'll
the
be here.
time we have to vote whether to actually do
Well,
this on the ballot,
you'll have the
somebody
advice.
will
Well, I
have
think
to
in all due
provide that.
respect, it's not how the language is implemented, it's where the language is
That's the same,
implemented.
all right, we meant the same thing, okay. I did use some of your time, but I left you a lot of extra time. Mr. Ridley Thomas is next. Mr. Ridley Thomas moves the previous question.
I just have one question for that.
Okay, Mr. Ridley Thomas does not move the previous question. Mrs. Walters.
Thank you, Madam President. And let me, for the record, say I did receive this. It was in our closed session materials, and I just assumed it was another case and did not look at it. But since it's been brought to my attention, I have been reading it. And it involves 202 here. It seems to me that 202 was a section that was at issue right after the Christopher Commission released its report. And it seems that the recommendation that Christopher was making on 202, we could not get agreement at that time from the union on that, and so put something weaker in there. And I don't know if my memory serves correctly or not. Maybe the city attorney can tell me if that was correct and what it was that they wouldn't agree to now, and is that being put in here now? And how does this stack up against the
You want me to
I'm
take
sorry.
that, Cecil?
It's
Councilmember, I don't have the specific...
boys over there.
Councilmember, I don't have the specific answers to your first part of the question as to how much we weakened, if any, the changes that we proposed at the time of the Christopher Commission. We will get you that information before next week. As to how this
Right.
stacks up, we
How
believe...
does it stack up
we
as
believe-
compared to Christopher Commission recommendations?
We believe this continues to further strengthen the Christopher Commission recommendations in the sense that there's been a number of challenges by the league and representatives of officers to pattern of practice, which was a big issue that was recommended by Christopher Commission in both the statute of limitations as well as in double jeopardy. Both of those provisions have been modified and we believe would strengthen our ability to hold officers accountable. The statute of limitations is modified so that at a civil case would toll the statute of limitations so that when we bring back something to the council, we won't have to say that, well, we disciplined the officer 3 years ago, we didn't have all the information we now have today, we would have reached a different decision. This would allow us to reach a decision with all the best
How
information.
about in criminal matters?
Same thing in criminal matters,
In
ma'am.
the instance of these Rampart things, there may be some criminal things,
Statute of limitations is also told when ongoing criminal investigations on the same charges are in effect.
but it's still a year. I read it.
No, the statute's told, ma'am. It's 1 year,
Told mean that
it
it's
continues.
set aside?
Yes, it continues until the criminal case is completed, or the civil case is completed. There's about 7 or 8 different things that told the statute, that 1 year statute of limitations. Criminal investigations and civil investigations are simply 2 of those.
Not too much trouble to say set aside as opposed to told?
Yes, ma'am, set aside is this, Is accurate.
But you will review this and let me know how it stacks up against the Christopher Commission
Yes, ma'am.
recommendations? All right, Mr. Echeverria, do you recall, or Mr. Marr, the 202 was an issue with respect to Christopher Commission recommendations?
Right, it was in both statute of limitations and the pattern of practice, and I don't remember what the dispute was at the statute of limitations, but I think your memory serves you well that there was a modification based upon negotiations with the league. I just don't remember what it was, and I think Commander Doan has offered to get that information for you.
Right, right, and I'll look forward to receiving it.
Ms. Goldberg?
Yes or no? The only change is the placement?
Of the double jeopardy language, yes, ma'am. There was
Right,
a
that's
ti-
the only change.
There was a title change, but we're not in any dispute about that.
Okay, but but the only change is that this is now not to be in the charter,
But to be in an implementation agreement.
but to be an implementation agreement.
Yes, ma'am.
And, but that's a significant change, because that can be changed without a vote of the people.
Correct, but would have
And the
to,
other requires a vote of the people.
correct.
And I can understand why that change would be objected to if you wanted to make sure that it had to be placed on the ballot before the changes could be made, and I think that's what was agreed to. I didn't realize, however, that that was the only change. I thought there were other changes as well. But that is a significant change. With the permission of the chair, we have a speaker who I think's card got placed in the
Misfiled.
wrong
Yeah, I called her
number, or
earlier.
put the wrong number down. Mitzi Grasso from the league would like to, and I'll yield my time.
Well, let's give her your time, which
Okay,
is
that's what I
now
said.
2
I'll yield
minutes.
my time.
Thank you, Councilmember Goldberg. In regard to the Charter 1070 changes, originally, we had agreed to meet and confer and did reach some type of agreement. However, I must admit that we feel, because the department placed these Charter 1070 items on the table, that we were compelled to negotiate them, though we didn't want to at the time. We did agree to disagree. We didn't reach complete agreement. We feel that these changes are significant in changing the placement. It is significant because it does change the intent somewhat in the way that it is perceived, and it allows for different types of changes as outlined by Councilmember Goldberg. Our position is, we feel, why are we rushing to get this on the November ballot when, if we take the time to look at the changes, we can negotiate true reform, which is our intent. We do want true reform, and we are requesting the council to consider true reform and do delay it.
Okay, thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you. All right. We do have the option, members of the council, to instruct the drafting and also continue the item to next week so that we can hear from Mr. Merkin and anybody else we need to hear from. But if we continue it without first instructing, we no longer have even the option to put it on in November. Yes, you're up next.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Is that right? Here's why I asked the question. Clearly, today, one could say, look, we're just discussing whether there should be language drafted and not making any ballot decisions. On the other hand, so much of the substance has crept into this conversation that I think no longer is it merely a procedural issue. And there's no one at the table who can discuss with any force what the meaning of the changes is. The person who best articulated what I think the change probably would amount to is Ms. Goldberg, who's not the city attorney. And I think that it's important, with due respect to Ms. Goldberg, to have the city attorney be able to speak with some power about this, and then we can make an intelligent decision. Right. Now, my understanding, I mean, look, I want us to preserve our choices, but I want to do so in a thoughtful way and not in a half-baked way. So having said all that, clearly we have to continue the conversation next week and beyond. There's no question. Mm-hmm. The only question is whether an instruction to draft has to accompany that continuance. And that's what I want to know.
Under the requirements of the code, it does. The requirements, however, are not jurisdictional, so that if they're not complied with and they're complied with late, there is no consequence to it. You would not be in compliance with the requirements of the code, however.
So the answer is sort of.
Sort of. You're preserving that right if you instruct us today to prepare the two versions and bring those back next Tuesday, and you're still preserving the right to instruct us next Tuesday not to go forward and to decide not to put it on the ballot. You
Well,
have until August 4th to make that decision.
In fact, I was going to say, we have until August 4th.
Correct.
To do that. In the ERC, I need to be reminded, I thought that all we agreed upon was the language, and that we did not agree to place it anywhere. And that it's not as though there is an interpretation as to where it would be best placed, but that's neither consistent nor inconsistent with what the ERC did. Am I wrong about that?
No, that's correct.
All right. So, look, where it goes matters a lot. The ERC didn't say where it should go. It's easy for me to conceive of the league believing that it was going to go in one place, and the city attorney saying it's another place, and that bends people out of shape and leads to where we are right now, which is not the right place to be, it seems to me. You are arguing that we could do anything we want to do in terms of the instruction, as long as by next week we reached a final conclusion. Is that correct? As to whether to instruct or not?
I think that's correct.
All right.
Although our preference would be to have an instruction, of course,
Your preference would be to have the instruction, why?
so that we can have a clear record and a record of the city having followed its procedure as set forth in the code.
Basically, it's the record.
Point of information.
Yes.
If the council approves today to draft both procedures, are we stuck with the language in those two procedures if we proceed with those?
No,
to
you're not.
ballot?
The instruction is to prepare the language and bring it back to you for further instructions or for placement.
So in other words, if there's a subsequent agreement reached, it could be amended to do so?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. I will stick to where we were before, which is to have the language drafted with it put in either place so we can choose, to have the discussion continue, and to make very clear that by doing these things, we are not prejudging which of either location in which to put it, and not prejudging whether to do it at all.
Right.
Because there's still more to be said about that.
Right.
Right, okay, so let me just, if I can restate your motion, just so we're clear. You're moving that we instruct today that they do both versions,
Which is Ms.
that we
Goldberg's motion.
continue that we continue the discussion to next week, and that we make whatever decision we're going to make
Later.
next week or later.
Not now.
Okay, everybody clear on that? Mr. Ridley Thomas? All right, and let's just vote on it, even though you're the last one up there at the moment. Open the roll on the previous question. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, debate is closed. Let us vote on item 46 with the instructions to draft both versions. The instructions would go today. We would continue the discussion to next week, and we'd have Mr. Merkin and whoever else we need at that point, and we make the decision by August 4th. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes, 1 no.
That is approved. Well, how about that? Next item, I believe, is item 48. Mrs. Chick, this is your item we've already done twice today.
Yes, and colleagues, in the wake of our successfully putting on the Animal Services and Fire Department bonds, I respectfully request the same support for this item, which simply, by the way, codifies what already has been adopted by the council as policy, and I believe, Mr. Zavornich, it was you that brought that policy forward. And what's before us is saying those practices have worked. They've worked well. We have examples on Prop K, and we should adopt those now in ordinance form to make sure we do the responsible thing in all of the bonds we place forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Chick. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Walters.
Thank you. I understand Ms. Chick's reasoning in asking that the debt policy should be amended, providing that all bond proposals placed on the ballot include a detailed listing of projects and the establishment of a bond oversight committee, etc. I'm sure you haven't, those of us, at least around the horseshoe, have not forgotten the size of the ballot book the last election and the fine print, and I had so many people say to me that surely they don't expect us to read through this. And I think they're doing this more to confuse rather than to enlighten. And I think that we should have that detailed information available at all city libraries, police stations, fire stations. But to try to put it on the ballot, I think is really futile. If we have it available locally, where people can access it quickly or can call any of our offices and ask for a copy and we'll see that they get one, then I think that is to be preferred as opposed to printing all of that detail in a ballot book. I think it's enough to say in the ballot book that even if you want to put a list of projects in the ballot book, that's easily understood. But to put a detailed explanation with all that's being asked here, I think really is not in the interest of disclosure. We can make that information available to the public in a setting other than the ballot book.
Mr. Wax.
I support Ms. Chick's motion. This is just an instruction to prepare the ordinance, right? In the interim, while that's being done, I had a request here from VICA, and quite frankly, I had not had a chance to analyze the pros and cons of each of their wanting to add additional provisions. So what I would like, perhaps, I'll read you what they are, and simply, rather than taking a position on any of them now, ask the CAO and the CLA, ask the CAO and CLA if they would when this comes back to us, if they would report on the advisability of adding any or all of these three suggested by VICA. One was that the funds raised by the bonds and be applied only to the specific purposes proposed to the voters. Second was that they require that the funds raised by the measure not be fungible. And third, that require all accountability measures apply to bonds actually to apply to special taxes as well. I'm interested in those. I cannot even begin to conclude whether the merits or not, but I'd like, if in the time this is being prepared, if the CO and CLA would look at those three suggestions and make recommendations with respect to them, and we can then add them to or not depending upon what their analysis is.
Ms. Goldberg.
Well, I must say that I object to having a detailed list of what's in the proposal being placed on the ballot. I do not object to the Bond Oversight Committee. And the reason that I have an objection to it is, first of all, we've had those lists before, and they don't necessarily mean anything. In Prop M was a replacement for Hollenbeck Station and a replacement for Rampart, neither of which got replaced. Instead, we have a EV, whatever they call that thing in the West Valley, which ran about 300% over budget and absorbed the money for both those divisions, amongst a few other projects. So I don't think it's any guarantee to list them. But my fear is much beyond that. My fear is that you'll get to a point in time where literally what we decide to put on the ballot will be based on where the votes are. And as soon as you do that, then the necessity to look at the whole city will disappear. And I think that's a real problem. I really do. So I think that it is important to tell people that here are the needs. There are these needs in the valley, and the west side, and the central, south central, the harbor, and that the bond issues will address them. And I don't even object if on specific bonds you decide, if future councils decide that they want to actually list them, as we are in this one. I don't have any objection to the listing in this one. But I do think to make it a policy that it must be done this way and that there's only one good way to do it is not a good idea. Although I do like the idea of an oversight committee, no matter how we do the rest of it. But I think there are some dangers, and I think we need to be cautious about those dangers.
Ms. Chick.
Yes, and I appreciate hearing the concerns of my colleague. However, It is very much partially because of the, let's call it the fiasco. It was actually Prop 2. 1989, I think, police facilities bond that had a list that we didn't follow. And the instructions here in the ordinance, plus the wording of the ordinance, Ms. Goldberg, I'm anticipating, leaves some room for flexibility. For instance, a detailed list in some cases could mean identifying geographic regions rather than by council district or by police area. But I think that it's doing a disservice to the public and also a disservice to our chances of having bonds passed to not tell people some details of where their dollars are going to be used. And also, I think what we've seen in more recent bond measures that we've been involved in placing on the ballot, because of the fiasco of Prop 2 and that list, that our city staff has been much more careful and diligent in developing the estimated cost, the scope of work, et cetera. And, for instance, what we did today still kept in the flexibility, as I believe we should, to allow additional projects to be added. We should always allow, for instance, the flexibility that a project that's listed might not end up being feasible because there's problems acquiring the land. Heaven forbid it's a condemnation situation and it's going to take too long. And so rather than just allowing that money to go wasted, we'll go to the next thing on the list. In terms of the fear of deciding what goes on the ballot and what projects will be done simply because of the votes, I would hope the built-in safety valve on that is the fact that it takes the 15 council members to place the item on the ballot, and I would assume that there would be quite a discussion and to-do if what we saw were projects were prioritized based on votes rather than on what we have city staff prove to us is a real need. But I do think the proof will be in what comes back to us. It is already an adopted by council city policy, and I think it's proven to be a good practice. I very much purposely would like the language to have enough flexibility in it so that it's not a locked-in verbiage that has to be used in every single bond, but that in every single bond we tell the public what our intent is to use the money for.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Previous question, Madam Chair.
Well, there's only one other person who wants to be heard. That's Mrs. Walters, perhaps. Okay.
Very quickly, when we become very specific about projects in a ballot, the real estate and construction costs go up, and we are really getting it in the neck on construction cost and real estate costs. Folks are just sticking it to the city for doing that, even when the projects have not been enumerated. In terms of the Bond Oversight Committee, I don't think it's necessary for that to be on the ballot. We have an established Bond Oversight Committee, the CAO or the ORS office, the CLA's office. The model for that would be the model for the monitoring of the City Hall construction, the seismic retrofitting of City Hall. That's a good model for that and has been employed with respect to Prop K. And so I think that that is the model that we need to follow. When we talk about setting up an outside committee, a bond oversight committee that's in the charter, we may get something like the mayor appointed over for the Bond Oversight Committee at the school district, and we don't need another one of those. So we need to be careful what we're asking for.
Ms. Chick?
Just very quickly. Ms.
That's
Walters,
what they all say.
yeah, no, but I'm just clarifying. This motion does not say that a Bond Oversight Committee question should go on the ballot. It says we should put into ordinance that all bond programs passed should have an oversight committee, and it's exactly the model you're talking about that I have in mind, but the direction doesn't ask for the Bond Oversight Committee to be locked in format, but it's not something that we're asking the public to vote on. It's an ordinance we'll have that says every bond program we have will have an oversight committee. And my intent is city staff.
So it would be a different oversight committee for each bond measure?
Previous question.
Okay. Well, Mr. Ridley Thomas gets the first crack at it. Is that what you wanted to
He
do?
already had a crack at
All
it.
right. Well,
He blew it.
okay. We have 2 votes in favor of the previous question and no one else wishing to speak. So the item is now before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes, 1 no.
Okay. That's approved. And it wasn't even Mr. Holden. All right. Next item.
Madam President, next item, you have Special 1 on the desk. It's a motion presented by Councilmember Hernandez. The city attorney will explain the need to make the findings.
Okay. It should be in front of you.
Madam President, members, in order for the council to consider Councilman Hernandez's motion, which is a motion seeking the council's approval to allow the Community Development Department to apply for a discretionary grant, it is necessary that the council make a determination that under the provisions of the government code and the rules of the city council, that there is a need to take an immediate action on this matter, and that the need to take this action was subsequent to the posting of today's council agenda.
Okay. Go ahead. All right. Open the roll on the findings. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right. The matter is now before us. Push the speaker button.
Okay. Members of council, basically Special 1 allows us to apply for a $50,000 grant that will help in the efficiency of our human service delivery system and the computerization as well as the monitoring of the programs. And the application is due July 19th, and I ask for a unanimous vote.
Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That's approved
Forthwith.
forthwith. Ms. Goldberg?
Yes, I'd like to move to reconsider our action on the permits at LAX.
All right. Once again, open the roll on the motion to reconsider the operating permits. We're
not on the
reconsidering it.
agenda.
We're reconsidering.
It's
Just
carried
go ahead
over.
and do it. We've been doing this for a week.
Yes, that's what we're going to do.
No, first we reconsider it,
That's
then we
right.
adopt the permits, then we hold it around,
That's right.
sitting around here, and then we do it again tomorrow.
That's right.
Okay, open the roll on reconsideration. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
Okay, before
14 ayes.
I speak, let me just say that there seems to be a breakthrough, and that what we will probably have to do is only this until next Tuesday, so twice more. Because in the commission meeting today, Northwest Airlines did publicly state that it will comply with worker retention ordinance, which I think is wonderful. But out of an abundance of caution, they said they would have their compliance done by next Tuesday. So I think that
We'd like to prove it,
Our
yeah.
goal is to reapprove the permits and leave it in the council
Right.
to do
Right.
this each day until next week.
No, just,
I
no,
don't
we
think we
can't,
can.
Nate. It's a long, complicated
It
thing we
has to
went
do
through
with
a week ago.
insurance, we can't do that.
Just,
So I'll just
so the
move
motion
that
is to
we-
once again approve the operating permits at
And to
LAX.
leave it in the council.
And we will not send it forthwith. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
All right, that is once again approved and not sent forthwith. Okay, next item.
This is the time for comments from the public on non-agenda items.
We have one member of the public, or, well, it's actually 2 people on one card, Dan Hankin and Marilyn Pepievsky.
Yes, hello, Council. My name is Dan Hankin, and I'm running for mayor of the city of Los Angeles, and there's a lot of issues that people in the community are very concerned about that I think the council should be aware of. I have been running this grassroots campaign for the past 6 months now, and I've been getting support in the community, and these issues resonate with the community, and I think the council really needs to take a look at these issues. We've put the issues into song because we feel they're strongest in that form to bring the issues to the forefront. And This is the song, and I really want the council to listen carefully to this. Have you ever had to pee, but you didn't have a quarter, so you couldn't use the toilet, and you had to hold your water? Well, paying for urination, well, it really isn't right. And this is one issue Dan Hankins gonna fight.
Yeah, Dan's gonna change all that.
'Cause I'm running for mayor. I'm running for mayor. I'm running for mayor. I'm running. Don't you hate the parking meters that eat up all your change? And as the time runs out, your stomach feels strange. So you run back to the meter to put some more change in. But there stands the meter maid with her scary evil grin.
But Dan's gonna change all that.
'Cause I'm running for mayor. Everybody sing, I'm running for mayor. Come on. I'm running for mayor. I'm running.
He's running for mayor to answer your prayer. The issues he stands behind are all about you.
And you. Have you ever heard music that you thought was really lame? Well, Dan Hankins' music isn't gonna be the same as that. Well, Dan Hankins' band is really, really cool. And when he has a concert, you really should attend.
Dan's music's gonna heal LA.
'Cause he's running for mayor. He's running for mayor. He's running for mayor. He's running. I'm running for mayor. No parking fare. A toilet everywhere. Because I care.
Dan Hankin for mayor.
Thank you very much. That's www.hankinformayor.com. We'll be at the Martini Lounge August 4th. This is the start of the next movement in Los Angeles. I hope I get all your support. 2001. Thank you very much.
I may vote for the gorilla.
It's been known to happen before. All right, thank you. That closes the public comment period since there are no other cards. We do have one closed session item. There are two on the agenda. I understand one of them can be continued, but one of them will still be with us. So let us, if you're not involved, which one are we doing? 37? All right. We're going to continue item 49 until tomorrow. And I will have to ask those of you who are not involved in item 37 to please leave the room. And while we're doing that, let us clear the desk.
We have motions for posting and referral.
Without objection, they are posted and referred.
Council has excuses on the desk. Councilmember Burnson requests to be excused September 26th and 27th. City business meets council policy.
How can he know that now? But if it meets council policy, we'll let him do it. That's approved.
Councilmember Swarnish requests to leave at noon. Personal business on July 18th and 21st, and city business on July 19th.
All right. Does that meet policy? Okay. Besides, he already left. All right. Those are approved. What else?
Councilmember Padilla requests to be excused to leave at noon on July 21st, which needs a motion, and July 28th. 28th is personal business, 21st is city business, and 28th meets council policy.
Okay. And how many will that? We'll still have a quorum, right? All right. Ms. Mizakowski moves, Mr. Pacheco seconds. That's approved.
And Councilmember Fear requests to be excused August 9th and on Wednesday, July 19th to leave at noon for city business, and both those meet council policy.
Okay, those are approved.
That clears the desk.
Mr. Wax is here today. Are you running for mayor? Can you sing? Okay. That's it? Desk is clear? All right. Is the room clear? The room is not clear. Yes. Yes, I have a staff person, a couple of staff people here. Okay, how are we doing on Mr. Burnson for an announcement?
Individuals that are here in City Hall for the meeting of the Planning Land Use Management Committee, it is going to convene in 5 minutes from the adjournment of this council.
Okay, adjourning motions? Yes. Yes, let me start, since I always forget to do this. Members of the council, I'd like to ask you to join me in adjourning in memory of Meredith McCrae, who is a very, very nice and wonderful woman, and did a lot of things in her life. And starting out early, she starred in 2 long-lasting sitcoms, My Three Sons and Petticoat Junction. She became very well known as an actress, a producer, and a television host, winning an Emmy Award for excellence as a host. She produced a number of very highly rated specials tackling women's issues, medical problems, and aging, and she was particularly proud of the project she co-produced, wrote, and hosted called A Second Chance: Surviving Alcoholism. She went on to a number of community activities. She was very involved in Women in Film, the Children's Burn Foundation, and the American Heart Association, the National Council on Alcoholism, and she served for 2 years as president of a local group known as the Trusteeship, where she was very active also in their international activities. She's survived by her husband, Phil Neal, her daughter, Allison, and her mother, Sheila McCrae.
I'd like to be a second.
I think we should all be on.
I think all members.
Right, and Ruth, did you mention, I think she showed also quite incredible courage and bravery and fortitude.
Bravery
She
after the
suffered
brain
quite a-
tumor was discovered. Yes,
Yeah.
she was ultimately felled by a brain tumor that appeared rather suddenly. I think it was about a year ago, maybe a little more. And she had emergency surgery at the time. She fought her way back, and ultimately she lost. Anybody else? Mr. Pacheco.
Colleagues, I ask that we adjourn in memory of Richard Kennerly. He's an individual who, although not a City Valley resident, he was a Brea resident who was working at on Broadway, 207 South Broadway. He was a window cleaner who fell to his death 70 feet. He's a 38-year-old individual who was very soon to be married. Obviously had a very promising life ahead of him. Unfortunately, died on the job here on Broadway Street. So I ask that we adjourn in memory of him and his family.
Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I request that we adjourn in memory of Jose Francisco Fajardo III, son of friends Jose and Josie Fajardo. He was 19 months and was under anesthesia before surgery and died due to complications.
Mr. Wax.
Yes, first, I'd like the council to adjourn in the memory of Vahe Oshagan, who is a very critically acclaimed, probably the most critically acclaimed Armenian language poet who died recently. His poetry was an extraordinarily important voice to the Armenian diaspora and had particular significance to so many of the Armenian community living in our city. A perfect example of how, once again, the arts can provide an eloquent voice for people and their culture and their issues, and I'll give the clerk the pertinent information.
Second.
I'd also like the council to adjourn in memory of Ralph Goldwyn. He was a great philanthropist, a great civil libertarian, and probably one of UCLA Alumni Association, the Foundation's strongest boosters for all the years ever since I was at UCLA, and he'll be sorely missed. And I'd like to be a co-presenter on Meredith's. 29 years ago, her parents and she and her good friend and neighbor, Sue Montgomery Carter, helped me very much in my campaign for the city council on my first race. They lived in Briarcliff, Studio City, and they helped a lot, and I remember that for a long time.
Mrs. Walters.
Yes, I also was going to ask for an adjournment in memory of Meredith McRae, so I'd also like to be a co-presenter on that for all the same reasons that you enumerated.
Thank you. Okay, call the roll. Thank you. We are adjourned. It is 19 minutes to 3. Mr.